Hello, everyone. Welcome to Highway to Victory Road 5. We are all set here in the Fire Red Division, and I think we are ready for some Pokemon battles. Levine, Klopfer, how are you feeling about some really intense Pokemon action this afternoon?
I'm always excited for some Fire Red Pokemon action here in the Highway to the Victory Road. We are on the way to Viridian City, and I'm just hoping we don't see that Zapdos at the Snorlax spot again. That was rough.
Really hard to get through that. I'm really wondering if we'll be seeing both of our runners here go to like their preferred Pokemon teams, like have them go around search for those in the randomizer, or just deal with what they're dealt with. I know PlumeriaKnight here really would like to get into that Grass Steel if possible.
And I know Possumorpheus has been a big fan of the Rattata meta, so we'll see if he holds up his end of that bargain today.
For sure. But definitely both very experienced runners here playing a ton of Pokemon. I think they'll put on a really good race for us.
Wait. No, wait, we can't do Pokemon. Wait, we're still supposed to do Final Fantasy IV. I'm sorry. Let's...
Oh. Okay, well, this is also exciting. No, okay. Very exciting race actually here. So good afternoon, free enterprise community. I am super excited actually for this race in the Red Moon Waxing round of 16 bracket between, and I was not kidding before I said, two very experienced, very talented runners here. PlumeriaKnight versus Possumorpheus. I am really excited for this. I am Klopper, joined by Raging Levine here. How are you feeling about this Final Fantasy IV free enterprise race?
Very, very excited. Of course, we have another 9%er Fusoya seed, it looks like. But Possumorpheus noting that low percentage chance there in his naming scheme. So it's sure to be a very exciting seed as these two blow up some bosses, get some spells, and find their way to the moon.
Definitely always interesting to see a Foo start. Definitely makes things a little different, as well as how practice are the runners on doing this, as it is, as you're saying, the low percent chance of coming up. So definitely, even when we're doing practice, you don't see it as much. I know Possumorpheus definitely on ladder does a lot of the Foo base seed there, so he's definitely experienced with Fusoya. We'll have to see how PlumeriaKnight handles this. Although looking at the bosses here, I do like seeing that defeat Valvalis is one of our objectives. When you get that Foo start, at least having something to maybe throw a wrench into all that power you get.
And it looks like we are getting started here. Both runners leading their Fusoya down the barren stairs here. And we are going to see a Bahamut here at the Bygan spot, and everybody gets a free pan.
Nice to have that pan, a little bit of extra key items once you do find yourself underground. This is always interesting to see if this makes our runners want to fade the rule to get that single turn in there, get all your key items all at once now that you know you already have that pan in hand. Though we still do have to find some underground access before they can know for sure they can choose to bait that.
And we will see how these runners converge and diverge throughout their search for underground access, moon access, and all of that good stuff throughout the seed. Of course, we are doing Red Moon here, which means none of our runners are making a beeline for Bedward. There is no free key item from Edward in this seed. Instead, the runners will be hunting for Demist. For now, we have PlumeriaKnight heading to My City to pick up a couple of characters, while Possumorpheus starts the Fusoya challenge here in the Mist Cave.
Yep, and for anyone not familiar, Fusoya here, we do not give him all of his power initially out of the gate. He only starts here with 500 HP and a very small selection of spells. Every time you beat up a boss, defeat one boss, you get 3 more spells and 100 extra HP. The spells are somewhat weighted to have the better spells show up later.
So while you might see most runners fade a boss like Kainatsu, who is not required here in the Mist Cave, Possum is going to take that down early, grab some spells for Fusoya, and head on to his next target. Meanwhile, PlumeriaKnight heading on for that same destination after picking up a couple of characters in Mycidia, while Possum takes a turn toward Antline.
And definitely nice with those extra characters, has picked up the full set of twins, which does provide 1. It's always good to have a dedicated white mage in your party, and 2, the ability to cast twin magic, which can be pretty powerful at this early part of the game.
Possumorpheus checking his traditional chest down here in the Antlion Cave, while PlumeriaKnight takes on that Kainatsu as well, looking for those spells for Fusoya.
Yeah, definitely. You're walking right by that chest. Why not open it and see what it has in there? Although this is on T-Pro, so the majority of chests will not have great gear in them, and the Line Cave happens to not be weighted very highly, so another reason you won't find much great stuff in there. But again, it's really fast to open it. Speaking of the waiting, though, we see PlumeriaKnight here going ahead and looting out the Mist Cave, which actually does have pretty high treasure waiting on there. So there's a chance of getting some pretty good stuff.
Meanwhile, Possum takes down the D-Lunars here in the Antlion Cave, picks up a Dragoon Helm for his trouble. Not probably what he was looking for, especially with the current party composition, and he's going to need to walk it on out. Meanwhile, PlumeriaKnight still taking a little bit of time to loot this Mist Cave, but it looks like we are heading back out to the overworld here.
Yeah, and not a bad reward there, a black shirt, which will provide more casting stats for black magic, which does seem to be where his damage is coming from right now. I think a tough choice here. You can drop. We do already have the Sorcerer Robe, as we're not running C Neki here. So Fu already well equipped, getting that Palom more online as he starts getting his magic, getting that Fire and Quake. Good to have him hitting a little bit of extra damage.
PlumeriaKnight going to spend a little time here in the Watery Pass picking up this cane, while Possumorpheus heads up Hobbs for yet another boss check and a little more power theoretically for Fusuya here, still hunting for some of those big ticket spells. And we see what appears to be, will it be the full leg or just the quarter leg? It's the full leg value.
Which Possum is willing to take on this fight. So again, not one of our objectives this time around, but is going to go ahead and give him more spells on Fu. And this spot actually has a fair amount of experience for early in the game, which for getting Palom online is very nice.
And PlumeriaKnight following suit here, taking down some of these boss spots here, looking in the Waterfall Cave and finding the Wet Noodle Ogopogo, and we're going to reset out of that. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Definitely while you're in the neighborhood, good to go ahead and check out who that boss is. It's actually a relatively hard spot this early in the game. It has a lot of speed. It's very quick. And Ogo taking all your percent HP means he can even shoot through Fu very fast. So yeah, I can definitely see why PlumeriaKnight would not want to take that fight right now, but the information is very valuable.
It is surprising just how fast the Octomam spot is. And we have PlumeriaKnight picking up Sid here. Looks like we're going to be trading out Edward for that Sid. A pretty reasonable call, as on the other screen we have a twin falling to the big wave from Ogopogo here, while Fusuya gears up to blast it.
Definitely. We did see PlumeriaKnight has picked up, in fact, main characters. I think one of the really important pickups there is that cane, because as I was noting, Val being in the pool and having a what looks like pretty heavy mage party at the very least that Fu start means Val could be very annoying depending on where you found her. Cane is your Val insurance. The tornado form, which allows her to dodge most magic, can be stopped by Cane's jump. So I do imagine we'll see PlumeriaKnight holding on to that cane, even if they don't say find good equipment for him. And when Possum does eventually go pick him up, likely want to also hold on to him.
Possum is through Ogopogo here, while PlumeriaKnight is about to challenge these D-Lunars here with Fusuya in the center spot, sending out that fire too. Possumorpheus is going to head to Baron Inn, where we see Mom Bomb as the first of the two bosses.
Always kind of annoying to run to Mom Bomb here. This spot is very small HP total, so normally get through it very fast. Mom Bomb, unfortunately, though, has a bonus, whatever, 9,000, 10,000 HP, so it can do the explode phase. And we don't have the power to get through that here, so we're going to have to spend some extra time on this normally very fast fight.
Fortunately for Possum, Ice 2 should be plenty enough to clear out these bombs and gray bombs here and send him on to the next fight. PlumeriaKnight through the D-Lunars here, heading back on out to the overworld. We'll see if we continue to overlap with some of this. PlumeriaKnight taking a couple extra chests here, getting 1,000 gold. Nice little pickup here. And we see Baigan, one of our objectives. That's going to make 2 for Possumorpheus if he can get through this.
Definitely nice. So, taking good advantage here of having Elemental 3 spells available. Baigan will bring up a wall, as we saw there, after the first spell cast, so going ahead and getting the biggest, strongest spell you can out as soon as possible. Working well here for Possum to almost one-shot it, and a quick staff hit finishes off Baigan, and then Light 3 clean up the arms. Luckily, this spot very slow, so we didn't have to see the arms explode there, doing damage to Fu.
Possum now up 2 bosses to 0 on PlumeriaKnight, but that's the hook as well for Possum, so that's underground access here. We'll see what order he decides to progress here, whether he goes and picks up some more characters, tries to clear a couple more overworld spots beforehand. Meanwhile, PlumeriaKnight taking down that Ruby, picking up some more spells for Fu as well.
Definitely. Possum getting a little bit of shopping here done, picking up those life pots. Always good to have a few of those extra in hand. And definitely making quick work through this part of the seed, as you kind of note. 2 bosses done. Hasn't picked up any of those extra characters yet, so missing out on the experience. But I think Possum has definitely said before on his stream that he can like, if he has decent power here on a Foo, to just kind of run around with this 2-character party, as you just get, Foo's turn comes up more often when you have less character menus to click through. So just running through 2 characters, he's getting a lot of turns on this very powerful Foo, already being able to do Lightning 3, and seems to be making quick work of many bosses here.
I've seen Possum and quite a few other runners take a similar approach with Edge Seed, so it's no surprise that we see that happening with Foo here as well. Both runners converging on Fabul, getting ready to do the defense, at least on PlumeriaKnight's side. Possum doing a little shopping in advance. I will note that in chat, there was a question about whether or not we were going to do the hook route. In both the Red Moon and the Blue Moon flag sets for this tournament, we are going to have a forced hook route in each seed, so you will be seeing our runners access the underground through that more difficult and frankly more exciting route all throughout this tournament. And on the left, we see PlumeriaKnight taking on this Asura, and Elite 3 is going to make short work of this boss.
Definitely another boss that can occasionally prove to be annoying here, but with being able to just one-shot it, all this healing Asura is doing, not a problem.
And it should be no problem for Possum as well. Lit 3 comes down, another 3,000 damage for Asura, and that is good night. Picking up the Luca key here from the King. We do not have the warp glitch in this flag set, so if there is a key item that is important gated behind that Luca key, we will have to go all the way down the sealed cave to find it.
Yeah, a lot of value now waiting for us in the underground with both the Pan and the Luca key in hand. Luca could definitely be an interesting check because it has this really nice property. If you get to see that key item before having to deal with the boss, although even if you don't like the key item, we are on this boss hunt, so you probably want to peek the boss as well.
I'm being told we have Nuke available now.
I just saw that as well. That's big. That's quite early to pick up Nuke. The spell list is weighted to try to get those good spells towards the end, but it is just a waiting, and this is randomized, so you can get Nuke at apparently 1200. Yep. Possum go ahead and immediately putting that into slot 1 here of his magic slot, because his plan likely for every fight for the next while is just throw at that Nuke.
There is only so much MP in the pool for Fusoya, though that is one of his foibles in the late game. Fusoya with that 190 base MP without a Soma drop. That's 3 nukes. Count them, 3 nukes before you need some extra MP on him. And that's a Yang here on Mount Ordeals, everyone's favorite punch mage. Meanwhile, PlumeriaKnight is doing a little bit of shopping here in Silvera. Looks
Picking
like
up the guy hat. Hat. Very excited to always see that get added to the inventory. It does actually provide some additional magic casting stats, so especially the black magic stats, unlike the wizard hat, which can be useful to have to, again, just get a little more damage out of your black mages here.
Both runners once again converging, this time on Mount Ordeals. Possumorpheus walks right by that save point. Don't need that. We have Nuke, and we can take out this Dark Elf here with relative ease, I think.
Yeah. Dark Elf, again, proving to be a mildly annoying boss to find simply because of the 2 forms here, so you're going to have to do 2 spell casts to get through it. And as you know, with the limited MP pool on Fu, is actually going to be somewhat annoying depending on who the next boss we run into. Fu is already down to just a single new cast left in him.
And if I recall, we don't really start with any camping gear or anything like that in the Red Moon flag set, which makes that limited MP pool and Nuke combined to be a little more obnoxious for our runners here. PlumeriaKnight decides not to take Yang along, leaves them in the Tower of Wishes, potentially for a sling later, potentially for good. We will see. Meanwhile, Possum has gotten all the way to the officer and 3 soldiers here at the back attack spot. While PlumeriaKnight starts off this Dark Elf fight, I don't think either of these fights are going to be terribly long.
Nope, be able to get through both of these. Will be interesting to see the approach Possum is taking here, which is, does he want to make sure he kills all the units here for some additional XP, or just nuke the officer to just make sure the fight ends quickly? But looks like he's going to try to take everything out and get some extra experience. Definitely good when you have this Palom. Getting him up to Virus and then Quake is really useful.
Fire 3 making short work of the soldiers, but leaving the officer up. We may lose some of the XP from this spot, and yes, the officer is going to retreat, so we are going to be a little limited on what our rewards here, but looks like Palom picked up Virus in that fight, which is at least nice. Palom can do something useful with his turn.
Yep, my strong enough spell to be worth using. So it looks like actually Possum's approach there was to take out the fight as fast as possible, as opposed to get the most experience from it, which again, our goal here is to go fast, so it makes a lot of sense.
PlumeriaKnight is now through the Dark Elf onto the back attack spot with the officer and 3 soldiers. Meanwhile, Possumorpheus is confronting his inner turmoil here in the mirror room, and we're going to get a darkness crystal quite early here.
That's always an important pickup. Again, this is a boss hunt focused flag set, and there are a lot of bosses hidden behind that darkness crystal. So while our main concern is killing bosses to get through the seed, we do need to pick up some amount of key items to make the rest of the boss locations available to us. And I think darkness crystal is that really big one in every runner's mind of until I have that darkness crystal in hand, I still value key item checks pretty highly. Possum check a lot of the seed at this point.
Possum overcoming his inner baggage here with Dr. Luggage, taking out yet another annoying boss with multiple phases here on Mount Ordeals. Between Dark Elf and Dr. Luge, we have some real blockers here, not in terms of difficulty, but just in terms of having to deal with multiple phases of boss.
Yeah. Chat noting, that Darkness Crystal is also really interesting for opening slingshot opportunities, which is we can go ahead and get characters who are lower level than the rest of the party to get double experience. And double experience when you do a grind like the D Machine grind, which is all of your experience in a single fight, can be very powerful. And Fusia, I'm not sure if I've seen weak in his spell list yet, but again, you take out a few more bosses and he can get that weak spell, and you can head off to the Giant with that Darkness Crystal and do that D Machine grind to get, say, the rest of your mage party fully online.
I have not seen weak pop up either, but it will pop up at some point soon. At the rate that our runners are blowing up bosses, it looks like we should have those online pretty soon. And with both runners having the pan, we have some extra access to key items. But it looks like once we can get underground, but it looks like Possum is going to head straight for Mysidia and launch the big whale.
As well as at this point, Possum might be interested in finding out who are the rest of the characters in this seed anyway, as he has only picked up his Punch Mage so far. So finding out about the characters in Mysidia, maybe check out those other locations. He does have to go and launch his hovercraft at some point anyway, and he does have the hook in hand. So it could be once he sees this is a fairly mage-heavy seed, is he going to be interested in heading off to that Giant?
We will see. Chat is noting, by the way, with the usual chat 2020 vision, that Fu got weak at about 900 HP. So we will have the ability to run that D Machine grind should we choose to here in this seed. Awesome. Going to go ahead and hear the stories of the sages here in Mysidia and then head out and board their cool spaceship. And
a little more shopping, of course.
Always good to go shopping. Give that spaceship a little time to dry off. It has been underwater for quite a while. Just let that settle out before you try to operate the electronic controls here. A good safety tip from Possum. And he's going to head in and grab the characters too. No sense in boarding the airship with the moonship, however, without a full crew.
And finding his bard, which he's likely not super interested in, but that white mage, which Possum usually not the biggest fan of her, but again, for this seed, is looking like potentially a very appealing addition to the party.
Most definitely. You got to get your healing from somewhere most of the time, so it is nice to have a white mage, whatever that white mage may be. Possum going to decline the option for a little eye care here and be on his way. Meanwhile, PlumeriaKnight is getting through this Mom Bomb fight at Baron in 1. Going to be seeing that Bygan here in just a second. Should be no problem for this party.
Yeah, a few extra spells in PlumeriaKnight versus what Possum had at this point, so should be able to very quickly get through this Bygan. White definitely set up, should be a one-shot for sure, so won't have to deal with that wall shenanigans.
And meanwhile, Possum continuing the post-overworld clear character hunt, finding this Cane here. As you mentioned, that is some great Valvalis insurance for when Valvalis is immune to magic during those spin phases. And we are going to see Edward taking a hike. While you might want Edward from sort of a role-playing perspective on your airship, always nice to have some entertainment when you're trying to go fast. You may want to leave him in the dust unless he's got that spoon.
Yeah. DKC is one of our boss objectives, and so he can be useful for that reason. His ability to hide to get through that fight can prove useful, but Fu's getting a lot of HP very early on through this killing of bosses, and if Possum does choose to keep, say, Yang around, he also just gets a giant HP pool and can also survive the Dark Knight waves that way.
We may see a serious Yang slingshot here if Possum does decide to go the D-Machine route. Meanwhile, Possum heading up to Damson Castle, going to grab the character here. I believe that was a Cid. PlumeriaKnight taking his leave of Baron Castle, going to head on up and take care of that Ogopogo that he left behind earlier.
Yeah, definitely was strong for when he first bumped into it, but at this point has sufficient power to take on this fight.
Should not be an issue. That big wave does not look quite so terrifying now that we've got a full party, a lot of spells on Fu, all that good stuff. Possum going to grab that hovercraft here. We'll see if he decides to go hook route or go to the moon.
And so it does look like both our runners have now seen all the characters and put together their parties, which are looking very similar. I think the only difference is PlumeriaKnight is running that Cid, where Possum currently has a Yang in his party.
And Possum discovers that the hovercraft is the best route here for him, at least in his estimation. He is going to head down Edlin Cave. We'll see if this is just a shopping trip or if this is a serious trip down the hook route. Of course, this is always a popular shop to check. It's an early spot to find things like hourglasses, Bacchus wines, and sirens. But it looks like Possum is going to, at least check the weapons and armor shop here.
Yeah, that item shop is very nice to check. It is actually always going to have 2 of the tier 5 items, which is sometimes done for seeds that don't require the hook route, give you some incentive to come check out this location anyway. But for this flag set where we're always coming down the hook route, yeah, you're always going to go ahead and have good reason to want to check that. A lot of good items at tier 5. It's your kind of those hourglasses, those Bacchus wines, those sirens. You want to check that shop and see what it has holding for you.
It looks like this Lunar Sage will only be sated by some serious spelunking as Possum heads all the way down the hook route. Gonna take at least a peek and see who's here. We see the Magus sisters here at the hook route.
Always good to see another objective there, so another one we can get done here. Again, we have 8 bosses we're tracking. You can see at the bottom there of the screen, of which we need to kill 7, which will reward us our crystal, and we will be able to take on Zemus at that point. So definitely with a 3rd boss sighted, we're getting close here to, get, closer. Not quite halfway, but definitely good to know where those bosses are.
Possum taking a look at that spell list, probably looking for Quake, as chat mentions, not finding it here in the Fusoya spell list, but it looks like he's going to continue on through the tower, and we may be taking, yes, it looks like we're going to be taking the Mad Ogre check, trying to find a little more XP for Palom, see if we can get the Quack Kid online to do his namesake spell.
Yeah, exactly. Having Quake is definitely a spell to look for. Meteor would have also been an okay substitute there, but those Magus sisters, one, you want to have your AoE spells like Quake, as well as the walls that are put up, means it's even hard to hit them with, say, AoE Elemental 3 spells. So yeah, you really want to get access to those, get through the fight. We do have 1 boss left to fight before we get to them, so Fu does have a chance of getting that, but I think you're right here that we want to at least get some extra experience here on the Quake Kid so we can go into that Mega Sister fight with at least 1 Quake caster.
Definitely a solid play here. PlumeriaKnight taking a different tack here, choosing to exit out of the Eblin Cave and go do something else. Meanwhile, it looks like we're going to be casting Fatal on these tiny Mad Ogres. We've given them something else to be mad about here, and can't tell if we're life glitching them. Yes, we are going to life glitch them, really get that extra XP, try to guarantee that Quake here.
So PlumeriaKnight heading back to the city here to launch that Lunar Whale, potentially interested in going to that Giant, maybe doing the slingshot before taking on those Mega Sisters. Or again, maybe even just going, checking some of the boss locations at the Giant or the Moon, and see if we have some free fights up there. Taking on any of those locations at this point at a hard boss would be definitely challenging, but there's definitely some free bosses left in the pool, typically those that don't actually have the boss bit set and thus are susceptible to things like stone or stop or just other ways to take out the fight very quickly and very easily.
We definitely have 2 different approaches here. It looks like Possumorpheus thinking, I'll get a little extra XP from this Mad Ogre fight, take quake through the hook spots and access the underground. Meanwhile, PlumeriaKnight launching the big whale here, most likely getting ready to go do D Machine in my estimation, but we will see. And I think a trip to the Tower of Wishes probably hints at that D Machine grind being the plan here. We're going to go grab Yang and going to go ahead and sling him up. He does his best work with lots of levels, that high HP pool and that damage formula both being dependent on his level.
Yeah, and definitely with PlumeriaKnight having picked up all their characters early on in the seed, is much more likely to be well set up for doing a slingshot, where unlike Possum, who picked up all of his characters towards the end, is very likely a lot of them came in at their base level, which was not enough to set up 2 of them to be 5 levels below your middle leveled character, which is what is necessary to turn on the slingshot.
I do not think we got Quake from that fight on Possumorpheus' side, but we did get a nice hat as a consolation prize, so better than a pair of British Knights shoes or whatever you used to get on those old game shows, but not quite what Possum was looking for as he continues to head down the tower here. Meanwhile, PlumeriaKnight doing a little more shopping here in Agard, potentially looking for ethers, and we have found ether 1s for that D Machine grind.
It very much looks like setting up here for a D Machine grind there. We are given elixirs at the start, which is another source of being able to restore your MP to get through that D Machine grind. But with the ethers in hand, it means you can save those elixirs for also, say, saving a fight that maybe turns south quickly. But get both that MP back all in one go and HP to likely your food.
We do start with those.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, we do start with those 2 elixirs, but PlumeriaKnight may be settling in for a long grind here with those ether 1s. We may be seeing quite a few D Machines on PlumeriaKnight's side, if those ethers are any hint here.
Definitely. So yeah, for different characters, you need to take on different amount of D Machines. And again, if your slingshot or your 10 key items is not available, which both are ways to provide those double experience, yeah, you can be looking at a lot of D Machines to, as again, likely you want to get if you're spending the time to set this fight up, get your casters all the way up to their top tier spells, and you can, for your black mages, for your white mages.
PlumeriaKnight heading directly into the giant, as we thought. Meanwhile, Possumorpheus is going to take on DKC here at the hook 1 spot, and that is one of our objectives today.
Oh, a lot of value here in our hook then, being both the DKC and that. Dark Knight Cecil is pretty mean here. This spot has a lot of attack power, as we can see, but luckily Fu, having taken on enough bosses, has enough HP to survive all those dark waves with at least 1 cure 4 to bring back up.
And as is tradition here at the Hook 2 spot, the Magus Sisters will be looking for a fair fight, so they will give us that full heal before we start. So the most of the party being on the floor here is not a terrible worry. This isn't Dwarf Castle or anything like that.
Big moment. What spells do we get? That was very fast. I didn't see it. There was a black magic spell. Maybe it was Quake?
I certainly hope so. We will find out. I suppose Possum heading down for a save, I'm guessing.
I'm going to guess that means not Quake in hand. Otherwise, he'd likely feel much more confident about this fight.
PlumeriaKnight headed straight up to check the element spot here. We're going to see what boss we have, and that is D-Mist. Not on our list of objectives, but of course, there is a key item hidden behind D-Mist on this flag set. So we may see PlumeriaKnight interested in taking that at some point. PlumeriaKnight going to pop a Siren and fight some Mac Giants.
Yeah, interesting. So not setting up the D-Machine grind here. Can go take on the Mac Giant fight for, I guess, some experience. The D-Mist at that element spot, definitely not the easiest fight you can see there. There's a ton of HP to get through in that location. And with D-Mist turning into Mist form, yeah, that can take a really long time to get through. Chat noting that this first fight might be to try set up turning his other party members into slingshot range. So right now, only Yang is at a low enough level to get the slingshot. If we could set up our important characters, say maybe Palom, to be in that slingshot range, then his D-Machine grind would be much slower. So investing this time in one additional experience fight to basically make his next fight a lot faster.
While both of our runners are fighting some non-boss encounters here, doing a little bit of their homework, I want to thank our restreamer Scala Kitty, our tracker Darth Plagal, rhymes with bagel, and of course my co-commentator Klopfer, and our runners PlumeriaKnight and Possumorpheus. Make sure to give all of these wonderful folks a follow. They're all great.
They are, and doing a lot of work here to put on these amazing show for us. So definitely do please give everyone a follow, especially these two runners who are doing an amazing job and are just great players. A lot of fun to watch. So yeah, so almost certainly Possum does not have Quake there on his foo, so is looking to get Quake to make that Mega Sister fight a lot easier, and so picking up some extra experience here is likely his goal here, so we'll have to see when he decides he is done gaining experience. And PlumeriaKnight, though, is finding this Mac Giant fight. It's not free. Those Mac Giants hit pretty hard, so he's having a bit of a tricky time with it.
I myself never really enjoy the Mac Giant encounters, so it makes sense that it's a little bit tough. It's not the most. It's not free. Definitely not free. All of the monsters on the Giant can get a little bit nasty. Fights can get out of control in a hurry. So this is a little bit of a tough one, but I think PlumeriaKnight will prevail over time should he choose to keep plugging away at this. Meanwhile, Possum saving and heading back up to the Hook 2 boss here, the Magus Sisters, and we'll see how that one goes.
PlumeriaKnight doing good advantage here of taking the Stop spell, which the Mac Giants are susceptible to, which means you don't have to get punched, which lets you be very selective about bringing up which members of your party you want to be standing and get that experience on so he can set up his actual slingshot for the next fight. Well done on his side to get through that.
Yep, we do see PlumeriaKnight leaving both twins on the floor here, setting up that sling, as everyone has mentioned. Really heads up play here. I really like this maneuver. Before we start the grind, make sure those levels are in order so we can get that double experience. The slingshot, if I recall correctly, if you have 5 party members in your party, the 2 party members who are below the median level of the party, that is to say, the party member with the 3rd most levels, if they are at least 5 levels below that party member's level, they get double experience. Is that correct?
Yep, that's exactly how it works. So you want to basically look for your middle leveled character, and they need to be 5 levels above those, and then double experience for them, which also, if you have your 10 key items, you're getting another double set of experience. So very, very fast slingshotting enabled if you have all that on your hand. But here, even without the 10 key items, the slingshot and all of your experience coming from one fight does make very fast work for getting up to your top tier spells.
Scala is working on getting Possum's feed back here. Meanwhile, PlumeriaKnight running away from this Mac Giant encounter, of course, referring to that wonderful table, or at least one of the tables. I've seen a few running around for the D Machine grind. They can be a little hard to read if you don't know what they mean, but once you understand them, you are looking for a fight that looks like this, the Searcher and the Beamers. Unfortunately, this appears not to be the version of the Searcher and Beamer fight that would give us the D Machines. We would instead get that Robo Centaur thing that always trips me up.
And not what you want to see. It doesn't provide nearly as much experience. So PlumeriaKnight almost certainly using this chart, so knows that's not the fight that they are looking for, and we'll just heal up, getting ready for the actual important fight here and get all their experience at once. Chat kind of noting, do we need a 5 and 5 or a 6 and 6, which is referring to just how many D machines do we need to kill. We're talking about the 5+5. That +5 effectively is life glitching the D machine, which provides you a double set of experience. When you use the life pot on a monster, it does work. It does exactly what it does for your characters, which is bring them back to life with the amount of HP dependent on their vitality stat. Monsters have a 0 vitality, so they get 0 HP. So it brings it back to life, immediately dies. There's your double set of experience. And so with these levels, I think we might be actually looking at a 6x6, so we'll have to take on 6 D machines and life glitch all of them. Although I think you'd be fine with the 6+5, still get enough experience, but I'm sure PlumeriaKnight has checked. Again, we have charts. Go to the wiki here, and you can get so much information about this game if you want to be able to learn these types of strategies. And there's charts available for just how many D machines you need to kill to get nuked for every different level.
And if you have questions about those charts, how they work, what they mean, the folks, if you can't find the answer on the wiki, the folks in the Free Enterprise Discord are always super helpful. I myself am pretty new to this community. I've only been running for a couple of months, but I've been able to get up to speed with help from a lot of community members who have been really generous with their time and helped me figure things out as I've gone through my runs. So if you're not already in the Discord, definitely check it out. It's a great place to be.
Please do join us. It's a lot of fun.
And we see the Searcher alone here. The Searcher's going to get hit. When the Searcher gets hit, that's going to summon a D Machine. And PlumeriaKnight's going to continue this grind. Going to go ahead and cast Weak on the Searcher. Going to eat a fire here. That's going to deal a little bit of percentage-based damage. And then we're going to take out that D Machine with a jump from Kane, it looks like.
Which does have a delay, so I wonder if PlumeriaKnight is actually trying to do a 2-life glitch hit here, where if you queue up multiple lives, wow, is that triple?
Very impressive from PlumeriaKnight here.
Yes, very impressive. We're going to speed up this a lot, being able to get this many life glitches on a single one. Incredible timing, very heads-up play to know, one, both setting up the party order such that Kane will come after Fusoya, and being able to know that timing to get so many life pots out on a single D Machine. This is going to be a very, very fast grind, actually.
There are a lot of really good ingredients to this grind from PlumeriaKnight. We see that good menuing, we see the good party ordering, we see the understanding of this grind and its methodology. I know some people think grinds are not terribly exciting, but I think it's really interesting when these minutiae are executed so well. So if you are looking for a great example of a D Machine grind, folks, this is it.
Yeah, definitely. This is a amazing example of how to get as much experience in as little time as possible, both setting up that slingshot and then just amazing execution inside the grind itself here to get off these multiple life pots and just get that much more experience that much faster. Very, very well done.
And here we see the life potions coming out again. That's 1, that's 2, and I think we have 3 coming through. Nope, just 2 coming through here, but that's still very good.
Yeah, and this point did look like Porm unfortunately took a turn before Kane there, jumped there in the party order, and so maybe messed up PlumeriaKnight timing ever so slightly, but still getting that 1 extra life pot is still a really big advantage.
I always thought this encounter, just from a vanilla perspective, these encounters with these Searchers are so strange. It's this weird eyeball that floats around and I guess summons other monsters to defend the Giant of Babel or the tower or wherever you are. But this particular behavior, which I figured out in vanilla as a young person, I was like, well, I can just call monsters to fight if I want them. That seems counterintuitive.
That's not what I want to do. I'm actually just running for most of these battles. I know that's what I did when I played this as a vanilla. It made all the boss fights very challenging when you have no experience.
I loved taking the fights because it's, if I'm in a fight and I'm 10 years old and one of my parents comes in and says it's time to turn off the game, it's advantageous for me to be in the middle of a fight for as long as possible.
It looks like PlumeriaKnight is happy here with the number of D Machines he's taken on, and so we see a weak thrown out onto that alert to make sure we can one-shot it, not trigger another D Machine summon, and that was 500,000 experience, which with the slingshot will be ahead and doubled up to 1 million, which should be enough to get both of our mages here to their spells.
We see Cure 4 and White, and now we see the list of black magic spells coming through, the 3 elemental spells, some of the utility stuff, Fatal, Weak, Meteor, and the All-Star Nuke. Yes, a successful slingshot for both of the twins here. A couple of nice items in those hourglasses. Not that we're going to be taking too many more fights where those are going to be terribly necessary, but if we run into something like Dark Imps at a nasty spot, those hourglasses could be quite nice. Gonna do a little reordering, a little homework here with Palom's spell list before we potentially, we are going to be warping on out, leaving that D-Mist where it is. That is a pretty nasty spot for D-Mist. A lot of HP plus that mist phase means a very long fight.
Nope. Actually, PlumeriaKnight does look like to get on. He does have a lot of power now under his belt with all these mages online. Or back out. Maybe a little more setup.
Change up. Yes.
That makes a lot of sense. Again, you have a lot of seed in front of you here. Taking this a little amount of time to just get your spell list set up so that all your fights you're just spending that much less time in menus is actually going to end up saving a good amount of time. So good heads up play there to recognize he hasn't actually got that. The Demus fight can be really time consuming, especially if you're actually running a Berserker party, since you can't actually really Berserk them into the Demus, who keep turning into the Mist form. But with a Mage party, the battle speed lowered there, it's not going to be as much of a time sink as it might otherwise be. We still have a lot of HP to shoot through, so it's not going to be super fast, but PlumeriaKnight definitely showing us one of the, for as annoying fight as this can be, how to get through it as fast as possible.
We do have a little bit of a slightly awkward anchoring situation with Fusoya in the middle, and there are two mages not going to be acting at RA1, but they should still be able to put out some good nukes from Palom. Porum, unfortunately, the white spell not going to be quite as effective against D-Mist. If I recall correctly, D-Mist is strong against that spell.
In fact, I believe D-Mist absorbs the holy element. So you'll see strong against weapons where you're not allowed to absorb, so they'll do half when you're swinging with that X-Scour. But the holy spell will actually end up getting absorbed, which you really don't want to do that. It's going to just set you backwards in the fight.
That is the kind of quad nines you do not want to see on your screen, as D-Mist is a little bit punchy here, so Porum is going to spend some time blinking up our party members, trying to prevent our damage dealers from getting knocked over here, and D-Mist is going to do what it says on the tin and turn directly into Mist.
So again, it's the script pretty straightforward. You'll see 3 punches followed by this Mist phase, where if you do hit the D-Mist inside of this, it will go ahead and counter attack with the Cold Mist spell. So you don't want to be hitting it there. Again, PlumeriaKnight just showing such excellent knowledge of this game. Even before the get ready to fight text come up, knowing when to jump here with this cane to still connect with it. So just excellent play here.
Really great timing. We see the jump coming down. We see that power attack coming out from Yang right on time after D-Mist reverts to its more corporeal form here, and we have the nukes coming out from our mages as well. We should be through this in a couple more phases here.
This spot does have a lot of HP. On a single body like this, you'll see 65,000. If you happen to get a multi-body boss fight, like say, we know it's not the Magus Sisters today, but the Magus Sisters here, you're facing even more than that, as the elements are typically here with the 2 bodies to split the HP across. So a very high HP spot, which does mean even when you're well equipped, as PlumeriaKnight is, this is usually a slog of a fight.
Definitely a slog, but PlumeriaKnight has judged it worthwhile. He is going to unlock the ability to pick up a key items check anyway on the overworld by going and talking to Rydia's mom in Mist Village, as well as access to the second boss spot here to see if one of our objectives is lurking at the CPU spot. But for now, we are just going to keep chopping away at this D-Mist. Fusoya running out of MP a little bit here and going to stop casting for a little while.
And there's a shake, and D-Mist is down. Yeah, definitely, as you know, Fusoya, a lot of good utility, a lot of good power right at the early part of the game. Unfortunately, small MP pool, so it did run out through this longer of a fight. But well done by PlumeriaKnight to get through a very long slog of a fight as quickly as possible.
Very well executed. A couple more spells here for Fu, and we're going to see what the CPU spot holds for us in just a moment here after Plumeria presumably takes a safety save.
Yeah, that fight was long. You don't want to ever do that again, so let's go and take a save, because there might be something really mean hanging out that CPU spot, who has both a very high attack power and a very high magic power. So if it's something that quickly hits you, things can go bad really fast in the CPU. Although, fortunately, much less HP than the element spot does, or has.
Dad has been noting some good battle speed technology from PlumeriaKnights, and the we have Water Hag here.
So Water Hag, nice easy fight. You hit it 3 times, the fight ends. As noted, this spot is punchy, so Water Hag's likely going to get a punch or 2 off, which will potentially take out whoever it does hit. But a fight PlumeriaKnight should be able to get through no problems.
Unfortunately, we did not hit the 1 in a very large number chance for Water Hag to be on the objective list today, but hopefully we'll see that at least once before the end of the Red Moon tournament. Regardless, this is pretty free here, as you mentioned, just a couple of bonks, and we will be right out, and we see the Arg, and goodbye, Water Hag.
What is useful here for PlumeriaKnight, on top of all the experience as well, and the demist item that he now has unlocked, is if PlumeriaKnight sees a blue robe, he knows that that is now his gauntlet fight, which is part of his boss hunt. So definitely useful information to have. And the key item coming out of demist could be important. We did note earlier the darkness crystal, very important, blocking a lot of bosses. But there's some other key items too that also block boss locations, and so getting those in hand can be very powerful. The Baron Key going ahead and blocking 2 unknown locations. The Earth Crystal blocking 1 location, and then 1 location you can check without it, but just less time useful that way. Tower Key makes going through the tower that much more efficient. So there's definitely some good key items still out there in the pool that we would like to hit.
I'll always remember the day I found out that Zot 1 was a place you could go without the Earth Crystal. I was very frustrated. I thought my seed was broken. Siren told me that the refund machine was broken, but of course it was just that the boss I needed was at Zot 1. So, you know, these things happen.
Yeah.
We're about to get an update here from Scala Kitty on the current situation, so let's all stand by, miss, for just a moment while we find out what's going on here in this race.
Hello, everyone. So as you could see, we had the technical difficulties going on. What happened is that Possum had a power outage. And Plumeria was extremely gracious, extremely sportsmanlike, and offered to re-roll due to the technical issues. So we're going to sort of swap off for the race that we're having. We've already gone through. This has all been happening kind of in the background. We already opened up a new room. We have a new C rolled. Right now, we're just waiting for the delay to catch up. So that's just going to take, you know, about 10 minutes or so. And then we'll come back with a brand new race. So y'all just basically get more free enterprise is what the long and the short of it is.
The free in free enterprise stands for free value, I guess. We get more races. Very cool of PlumeriaKnight, obviously, to agree to this restart.
Yeah, Plumeria, absolute. Champ, Plumeria has been in the same situation on the other side of it, so I know, you know, I was, you know, delighted to see that he was, you know, willing to, he actually was the one who made the offer to Possum, because he said, I don't want to win on a technicality, I want to win because, you know, because I beat you fair and square, so, like I said, we'll be sort of doing a reset on everything, But, so we just have just a little bit of time while we're here. How have y'all been enjoying the tournament? I sort of like, if we have like these sort of little moments, I like to ask like, how y'all doing? Are y'all enjoying the tournament?
Enjoying the tournament a lot. It's great. There's 1, it's a lot of fun playing it, and 2, it's a lot of fun watching as well, as there's just so much free enterprise to watch now with both the Red Moon and Blue Moon tournaments going on, and being able to follow both those brackets and seeing how everything's going. It's been a really great time, and definitely fun to see a different setup here and having these 2 different brackets running simultaneously.
Likewise, I'm having a lot of fun both watching and playing. It's really cool to see the differences in the 2 brackets. I've been downloading a lot of the YouTube videos onto my tablet to watch on the airplanes that I've been on recently, and they've made my flights go a lot faster. but I've had a lot of fun playing as well. Everybody's been super rad, especially for a new person like me. So I think this 2 tournament situation is really cool.
I'm glad. I'm the one who came up with the whole 2 tournament idea. So So I am really happy that folks have been enjoying it. That means a lot to me. Give me 1 second. I have to also kind of keep track of when I had to be doing things.
Definitely, of course. I mean, as always, big thanks to Scholas Kitty, as well as all the other admins behind the scenes, putting on not just one, but 2 tournaments simultaneously here, putting on both of these, the Red Moon and the Blue Moon brackets at the same time. This takes a ton of work to do, and it got doubled up by having the 2 tournaments here. So again, just big thanks to everyone involved in putting this together. It's both a lot of fun playing, a lot of fun watching, and we wouldn't have it without all of you doing all of this work. So definitely big thanks, and give those follows on all the streams for everyone involved in this. We wouldn't have it without all that work involved.
There is a ton of invisible work that that we don't see that the admins are doing, setting up race rooms, working on sirens, creating overlays, scheduling restreams, making sure everybody plays in the week they're supposed to play and not in some other week, and more stuff that I can't even think of off the top of my head. So it's pretty wild to run through 2 tournaments at once.
I mean, the kind of the idea we had was that we figured that we'd end up with about as many people as we would for like a single tournament. Was sort of like the idea, especially when we're doing this sort of split idea where we're like, okay, we're going to sort of split our player base, and we were kind of expecting the split that we got, which is about 1/3 red, 2/3 blue. So, though people ended up being a little bit more enthusiastic than we intended, which, trust me, we were very surprised and very happy about, because, it was a big risk doing a boss hunt tournament, was the other big thing. That's the thing where boss hunts have never really been, like, completely on the table before, as, like, the main focus. So, it was also a big risk with the meta, but, shoutouts to Possum and to Martin Broadcloak, who they did a lot of work on the flags, but all the admin, like Poydrak and Flurry and Moonblaze Wolf, and I even got my one teeny tiny thing in there, which is your 1% water hag chance on Red Moon. You are welcome. So the thing is
I'm excited to see that water hag will show up in one seed.
I
it's
hope
gonna be
so.
great.
I hope water hag shows up on Restream. That would make me so happy.
I know there was also some important work that went in on the programming side for 4.5 that made some of this possible, right?
Yes.
I believe the See No Earned flag that we used that created the piggy meta is new.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. That was our wonderful dev Zoe came up with that whole concept. That was like one of Ver's pet projects. So I know Zoe's been really, really happy to see people kind of really embrace the piggies.
That was also excellent work done on that. Not just, you just don't get your characters, but all the fun little animations and different things that happen when you find the pigs in these places.
The thing about Free Enterprise to me that is always... This to me is the actual most amazing thing about Free Enterprise. There's a lot of things about Free Enterprise that are amazing. But one of the most amazing things to me is the fact that when you actually look at who's actually worked on it, there's only been about 5 people, like 5 people you consider to be devs for Free Enterprise. That's it. And the fact that it is as polished as it is, and that we take the amount of time to sort of to the amount of care, the amount of crafting we do with it, that's the amazing thing. And like I said, you got basically, Board and Zoe who've done the code. You had Rivers who is working on the game design. Myself doing all of our extra graphics work. And, sorry. And then Xenocat and, so it's 6. Xenocat and Calamity who've done the harp. So the fact that it's such a small group of people that made this, and then we have a whole little community out there, is absolutely amazing. But we're gonna turn away from our little hold screen chat times, because new seed is up, and I promise you, it's not foo this time. Okay, it's not foo. You get something different this time, so enjoy.
It's something different. I was really thinking that was going to lead in just a foo, just kind of, throw us off the trail there and be like, no, surprise, actually foo. But no, our Dark Knight start here, which Cecil can turn to the Paladin with Ordeals, but definitely makes a different type of scene than the foo one we just saw playing it.
And here I was hoping for a Charmander start, but I suppose Dark Knight Cecil will have to do. We also have a refreshed boss list. Of course, Golbez and the Fabul Gauntlet are still on the list. And we have a couple of familiar faces here, the Magus Sisters, Bygan, I think Antlion, but a couple of new contenders, Mom Bomb, Evil Wall here. So should be an exciting and different race from that one that did not happen.
Yep, definitely will be interesting to see how this plays out. So the elements is also interesting. Another one, those ones, much like the Fabul Gauntlet and the Water Hag, shares a sprite, so it can be hard trying to scout out what you're, there's a handful of boss locations where you actually get to see the boss first, like the boss sprite, before you have to fight it, and being able to go ahead and use some of that information to choose to take a fight or not. It gets a little more fun when you get things like elements into the mix.
Absolutely, with Blue Robe Confusion already being a part of this meta here, having questions about will we get full leg or quarter leg is always exciting.
Yeah, we did see. I think the interesting thing with both the foo start and the edge start is just all that power you get immediately. You really don't have that with the Cecil start. The Dark Knight is unfortunately not a terribly great character. There's not a lot of equipment he can use. So really isn't going to be able to carry that seed. So your starting partner here can be very important. Seeing Sid, not bad. He has a lot of HP. He's reasonably high level for the start of the game. So definitely good to get that. But how much more power are our racers going to want to get quickly before they start tackling some locations?
We may not have too much power in our starting pair of characters, but we certainly have power in Possum and Plumeria's computers as we head on to this reroll here. And we are going to get this one going online. We'll see how these runners converge and diverge once again as they get started back on the overworld. And we see Possum this time heading straight for Mysidia, as well as PlumeriaKnight. We're going to pick up a couple of extra characters here just to round things out. Hard to get too much done with DKC in the party right at the beginning. So let's see who we pick up here. Once again, we have Edward returning for another trip through the seed, and Young is back.
Not a complete mirror here. Characters we've seen before, but at least finding them in different spots. So, okay.
Yes, Yang not hanging out on Ordeals. We will have somebody else there, somebody at Watery Pass, and once again, somebody at Damsian. Possum opting to check the item shop here. Does not find too much that he can buy right now because, of course, we have no resources, but Star Veils are there. Meanwhile, PlumeriaKnight heading straight to Ordeals, presumably for that character check. It would be pretty hard to take on Ordeals at this point, I think.
Could be somewhat challenging, although getting that character, and these chests are reasonably high weighted on T-Pro. Not going to have the best stuff, but has some pretty reasonable chance of some decent loot, so picking up that for a little bit of extra power. But yeah, almost certainly get this one more character. Ooh, is an important find here. Tella, when you don't have Fu, Tella's your next choice for being able to get all those spells very early in the game.
Tella, very interesting starting character. Gives you access to Exit, which opens up some extra looting options in Watery Pass. Also gives you the possibility of a D-Machine grind, so we may be heading back to the Giant if we do see that Darkness Crystal. Meanwhile, Possum picking up a Cane in the Watery Pass.
I think that was the same, right? Hanging out in the Watery Pass again. I guess we know where Kane likes to be. We did also get a Rune Axe out of one of the chests in here, which is a very, it's a pretty strong weapon, has a lot of attack power on it, but importantly has the Mage Killer property, so really good when you say have to take on those Magus Sisters.
Definitely an important property. Raise your hand if you've ever forgotten to equip your Mute Knife or your Rune Axe when fighting a Mage boss. I am raising all of my hands right now.
Everyone has their hand raised. That is, without a doubt, happened to everyone. But your Rune Axes, your Mute Knives, super useful for getting through those fights a lot faster. And hey, faster usually also safer. The other useful axe we pick up there is the Ochre Axe. A also fairly strong weapon, better accuracy there than the Rune Axe. And nice one-handed, so you can still keep on that shield for some extra defense.
Awesome. Going to head into Damcien, check that chest in the upper right here before checking this character. And we see a Rosa here, a little bit of an upgrade to our white mage situation in this seed.
Yeah, I think definitely a sigh of relief. Plus, a lot of scenarios you want to have a white mage. There's just a lot of things that makes it a lot easier. So getting Rosa, probably a the stronger white mage, most people would say. It's good to have her in the party and just can make a lot of things a lot easier.
PlumeriaKnight resets out of Mylon and friends here at the waterfall spot, not on our list today. And going to go in and grab that Rosa here. Meanwhile, Possum is going to check Mount Hobbs. And yet, I'm sure both runners are going to be very happy to avoid the cursed telehealer seed, not something you generally are too excited about.
Yeah, he does get Cure 4. Yeah, but his stats are not great. He doesn't have much of an HP pool. He can do a little healing, but it can be a struggle for sure.
Ooh. And we've got an objective here on Hobbs. Evil Wall is here, enjoying the wide open spaces, not confined to the corridors of the sealed cave today. We're out in the open, enjoying nature, climbing a mountain somehow when you're a wall.
The natural habitat of the wall, much like the moon for the antlion. This you find walls on mountains. It all tracks. But definitely good to get an objective done here. And as noted before, this spot does also provide a good amount of experience for early in the seed. So get some of these characters, a few levels on them to get a little more power. Was that a curse ring on PlumeriaKnight's side?
I think so. Very exciting pickup here for PlumeriaKnight. And while Possum conquers this climbing gym, PlumeriaKnight is doing a little spelunking, heading down into Antlion Cave, and we'll see what boss we run into here.
That's a blue robe, but it's one blue robe. The Antlion does have two sprites, the two pincers that come up, so with only one blue robe, we do know it's just a water hag.
I had that brief moment of seed bleed that does not usually happen here in the commentary zone, where I thought, oh, well, we already saw water hag, and then I remembered, no, that's not it.
Yeah, just kidding. So this is just the water hag here. You're probably feeling a little unfortunate. This is, as said, a easy fight. You just hit it 3 times. Doesn't matter how much HP it has, the fight is over. So you really like finding this in a later spot if you can, get through it a lot faster. But you can't control that, so just deal with it when it shows up.
Regardless, PlumeriaKnight is through the water hag, and Possumorpheus just getting started on that. So we should be through this area pretty quickly as a group. And PlumeriaKnight is going to pick up the rat tail here. We don't have the hook yet, so we can't turn it in, but we may see it turned in quite a bit later.
Yeah. Good news with required hook route is it's not going to take us too long to find that hook, so we will be able to follow up on that rat tail not too deep into the seed.
Possum's looting strategy caused him to miss that cursed ring that PlumeriaKnight picked up, so that may be a little bit of a difference in the anchoring situation as the seed goes on. It may matter, it may not matter. PlumeriaKnight attempting a mountain landing here and finds the zone, finds the right parking spot here.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you can't take the shortcut just to the top of the mountain there at the Free Enterprise. You do have to park at the base and walk your way up. PlumeriaKnight will be finding that evil wall. And yeah, that will be interesting to see if later on the curse ring really ends up making a difference. We have mentioned, I think, a bit of anchoring, but if we haven't gone into the details there, by having a slow character in the middle spot, makes all your other characters effectively faster. The curse ring helps with this because the curse ring provides -15 to your agility, which for almost everyone is enough to make them slow enough that they become a very good anchor, and everyone else will move very fast. It is worth noting, the boss also moves really fast, but bosses tend to move fast anyway, so they tend to get far less of an advantage than your party is getting from doing this relative 1 agility anchoring by getting one very slow character.
Possum walks it out of Antlion and heads over to Fabul. Meanwhile, PlumeriaKnight taking down Evil Wall with ease, evening up the encounter objective at 1 and 1. And we're going to see PlumeriaKnight take a couple of these chests here. Again, the incentives are a little bit different on T-Pro than on T-Wildish in the Blue Moon bracket, but PlumeriaKnight just going to take that one chest and exit out.
We see continue shopping there from Possum. Again, both the items, there's some useful ones to pick up in this early part of the seed. Life potions are definitely nice in hand. You might need some more star veils, depending on how you feel with these set of bosses. Silk webs can always be nice to get in there, as well as checking out that weapon and armor shop. without that curse ring in hand, it can be nice to find out if those are for sale, which are available at these overworld locations on the the S standard, the shop standard order.
And we see Dr. Luge and Balnab here making an attack on Fabul Castle, but both of our runners should be able to blunt this assault here. Should be no problem for either of them.
We do see on the Possum side here the taking manual control part of the seed. If you do kill the doctor in the back first, then you do not have to see this portion of the fight. Likely thought he might be able to just straight attack through the entire thing and get through the fight fast, but again, the spot doesn't have a ton of HP, so even with that extra portion, not taking too much time.
Should not be too long before both of these runners are through Dr. Luge, and then we will see what the king has in store for us today. Should it be the Darkness Crystal? We do have that Tella in this seed, so we'll see what happens with that. We may be on an early trip to the Big Whale once again, but if we don't see that on the overworld, we're going to enjoy a more natural trip to the underworld and then to the moon from there.
Yeah. In order to take advantage of that Darkness Crystal, we would need to finish Ordeals first. Tella comes in with actually a very small spell list, but by finishing Ordeals, it unlocks this entire spell list all in one go, which does include the weak spell, very important for that D-Machine grind. We also have a Cecil in our party. That's another good reason for wanting to do Ordeals.
Most definitely. Very well incentivized both of these runners will be. And we're picking up the spoon here. Edward is hanging out in the Tower of Wishes, and it is pretty early in the seed. Without the back row glitch, though, here in the Red Moon side of the tournament, what do you think about Spoonward as a viable option?
Yeah, it definitely is viable. The Spoon has 255 attack power. It is very strong. Eddie doesn't have the best stack growth, so it does take a little bit to get him enough strength to be able to get multiple hits with that, but he's very weak. He gets knocked down by pretty much everything, so it can be challenging, as you know, especially without that back row glitch to be a little safer. This type of seed is why maybe one of the best for it, though, where we got that Cecil start, because if we do finish Ordeals, he turns into a Paladin, and the Paladin has a very important command, Cover, which you can then have your Paladin go ahead and take any of the physical hits coming in for Eddie, who can't take them himself, and keep him alive to just keep swinging that sword, which now your Cecil might very well himself not be doing any real swinging. He'll just be covering for your Bard, who's, of course, the real damage of any party.
Well, we may very well see Cecil working security for the most popular Bard on the blue planet today, as Possumorpheus heads to the Tower of Wishes, picks up Edward, and then heads on over to Ordeals to teach his Cecil the ways of cover, and of course, Tella those many spells.
Yeah, so definitely find that spoon and knowing which characters in the seed, very useful for our runners, and so we see Possum driving that Eddie. Will PlumeriaKnight make the same decision? We'll have to see. Although Possum definitely interested in that Tella over the Sid here, a very useful for just all the utility he brings once he gets his full spell list, and even before that, still pretty useful. Comes with both the exit spell, good for getting over a handful of locations, and the blink spell, which is another way of providing protection for your Eddie there against physical attacks. Blink allowing you to avoid the next two physical attacks that would hit.
Absolutely a great set of utility spells even before we get to that mirror room. It looks like PlumeriaKnight is also going to take that spoon up the Tower of Wishes and offer it to the local Bard, switching out Sid as well. So we're going to see a lot of the same things going on in the parties for these two runners in this seed. Meanwhile, Possumorpheus finds Karate at the first spot on Mount Ordeals.
Oh, great. We have a Cecil. We can take this fight quickly. Oh, no, wait. So this is another script fight. There are ways to end this one fast. If you have a Paladin in your party, after the second kick, you just have to punch him with Cecil and end the fight. But it only does work with Paladin Cecil.
And so, yes, the quick kill will not be available for either of our runners here at Ordeals 1, but with Edward and the spoon, we should be able to get through as long as our runners can keep Edward standing. And so far, that's going pretty well for Possum here. PlumeriaKnight's already been up Ordeals, so he doesn't have to wait for Tella to pop out of that door. He doesn't have to loot those chests. He can just walk on up and catch up a little bit to Possum here. And it looks like that's exactly what's happening as Possum continues to work his way through the karate fight.
Yeah. I think putting out some reasonable damage. Unfortunately, he is base level and with not any really good gear, so even with the strongest weapon in the game, as strong as can possibly be, he's still actually ending up hitting less than Kane is a lot of the time. And that's simply due to the attack multipliers. You need so much strength stat, and I believe agility stat also goes into it, lets you connect more times with your weapon. So as he gains more strength, he'll be able to hit more times, each of those for 255 points of damage, with some randomization thrown in there.
Possum does eventually take Karate down and is going to take a save here before hopping over to the back attack spot. Meanwhile, PlumeriaKnight blinking up Edward, trying to keep him protected here as we move through the same karate fights. And it looks like we're going to, just a little curing here, nothing too complex, before we find out the Mom Bomb, is in this back attack spot, and that is a rough spot for Mom Bomb in my experience.
Definitely, again, you do have to get through the extra HP here. Mom Bomb will punch reasonably hard, as we just saw there. As well as, because the backtrack spot gets that first attack in, so get some punches before you see maybe get those blinks onto your Eddie. This spot actually has really high magic attack power for the early spot of the fight, or it's part of the seed, sorry. So the first part of the fight, though, will just be punching. But that explode might actually do a bit of damage here with all that extra magic stat.
Yeah, I've definitely taken a couple hundred damage here from the explode in the recent past, but looks like Possum is doing a good job of keeping the HP totals high here, and PlumeriaKnight has come in with a decent amount of HP, so we should see much the same thing from him as we work through this additional HP bonus at the front end of the Mom Bomb fight. Until missing a blink is rough.
Oof, yeah, it is possible actually to miss with some of these spells targeting your own characters. They still do have hit percentages, just like every other spell, and yet you can on occasion miss. We see very much from both runs here an attempt to keep their party's HP topped off, as I'm pretty sure they're both concerned here of the explode.
And of course, we have to keep Edward from hiding in the shadows, try to keep his HP high enough to punch here for a little bit. But Edward, as noted, can hide from the explode, and it looks like Possum is going to instruct Edward to do exactly that as we wait for this explosion to come through.
Nice heads-up play there by Possum, knowing the explode here is fairly painful, and that Eddie really doesn't have a lot of HP. So let's go ahead and make use of his Bard command, specific command there, Hide, which completely removes him from the universe, it seems, because it doesn't matter what attack is going on. This can be an entire big bang, and he just doesn't care. He will take no damage.
Yeah, Edward, no matter where you are, Edward always finds his trailer, and he can go hide out in there. It's just no problem. He spends his life on the road as a bard. He understands the life, and Possum is going to keep his team healed up here. Meanwhile, PlumeriaKnight also entering the Bomb and Grey Bomb phase of the Mom Bomb fight. Rosa falls to an attack here, but Cure 2 coming out from Tella should save the rest of the party from any other terrible happenstance that might befall them, at least for the foreseeable future. We'll see when these bombs convert from their attack script to the explode script here. Hopefully that doesn't happen.
Their explode, though, does only hit one character at a time, so if you have more party members than there are bombs left, you will at least make it through that fight. Coffee and Chocobo's noting in chat that you can't just unfortunately keep Eddie hidden and just wait through the entire script and have them explode. I guess it's if there is no target for them, they will choose not to do that.
I was about to ask about that, so that's a great call out. Thank you, Coffee and Chocobos, for that good info. And Possumorpheus is through the Mom Bomb fight, and with more targets than bombs, PlumeriaKnight will be through this fight as well very shortly.
On objective done, so definitely happy to see that. I'm sure our runners are. And Possum feeling safe enough to go right on into this next location here, this boss location. Much easier generally. It doesn't matter too much who you find in here, you'll likely be able to get through.
Mirror Room only, I think, 1,000 hit points. Is that correct?
That is 1,000 hit points. Not any very low magic attack, very low attack power, very low agility. It's low on all the stats, so you're pretty safe against most things. Wyvern, always a little scary just because he's Wyvern, but most things you're fine with.
Did Possum? Did we get an Earth Crystal here? Is that is that real? Oh my gosh! And the Magus Sisters.
And the Magus Sisters.
Fully required ordeals with two objective bosses on it.
Yeah, exactly. Hard required to come up Mount Ordeals and do this. We have 8 bosses down there in our tracker, of which we need to kill 7 to get our crystal. which means if 2 of them are in one spot, that spot has to be done. You're allowed to fade 1 boss, but not 2. Uh, Likely, though, our runners are not feeling like they're, getting a lot of, heads up on the other runner, as with a Cecil start till in the seed, you're probably guessing your opponent's also going to go ahead and do ordeals.
Most definitely. Fading ordeals not really on the menu with this party, and with the Earth Crystal in hand, will we be seeing the T-Pro Treasury today? Signs point to yes, but we'll find out what our runners do.
Yep. We have characters who like equipment. Both Kane and Cecil like good gear. Definitely Rosa, there's a handful of things that are useful for her. And we're only 20 minutes into Seed. It's still really early, so a good time to pick up some potential additional power. So yeah, I could see it very likely that we do this, as well as Eddie. His gear is not great to start with. There's a handful of strength increasing gear for him that if we find that can really, really ramp up that spoon's power.
Possum going to take one of these double Lilith encounters, boost up Cecil a little bit, sling him up 15 extra levels just to get him on par with the rest of the party for some additional overworld boss killing here.
Definitely. You so get him a handful of stats, as well as a much, much larger HP pool, which if he ends up being, say, security there for our Spoon Lord, good to have that, as he can just take that many more hits.
And PlumeriaKnight likes that play so much, he's going to do it too. So we're going to see our 2 runners coming out of the mirror room, mirroring each other's movements here. Very exciting to see our 2 runners agreeing on what the right play is. Will they both go to the same place after this, though? Possum is going to go to Zot, just as we thought, and we will see if PlumeriaKnight goes there too. My guess is yes.
And a dip to the right, there is. Let's go ahead and check this out.
Raise that treasury!
And it's time for the best game show in Troya. It's not Deal or No Deal. It's not Wheel of Fortune. It is Rate That Treasury. Let's see what Possum gets. All right, well, we made up for that cursed ring here. That's good.
That's a curse ring equalizer right there. Possum almost certainly happy to have one of those.
I think I saw Sork robe, heroin robe.
Yep, robes out of 10. Definitely useful to have there. Heroin robe could be used to get Rosa to have a lot more defense, safety, agility, but bad magic casting stats. Or you hand her that sorcerer robe to keep her on the magic casting path. Crystal armor is an interesting pickup. Most powerful armor there for your paladin. But unfortunately stops the berserk stat. But again, if he's mostly on cover duty, that can be useful to have.
Absolutely. If we are having Cecil work security for Edward's traveling bard show, we may well see the crystal armor come out today to protect this spoony bard. And it looks like both runners are going to go ahead and head up. So, well, PlumeriaKnight exiting out of the treasury, saving a couple steps here.
Might be interested in doing something outside of the castle, or just using it as a way to get back in. Going shopping, potentially, or, oh no, all right, let's fully leave. We're going to go check out another location.
All right, we have confirmed divergence. PlumeriaKnight is going to head off to do some other things. Or is he? Yes, we are going to see Eblan Castle looted out. A popular choice on T Wildish. Still a relatively high percentage loot spot, even on T Pro, especially when compared to the rest of the options that exist.
Yep. For those who are not familiar, both T Pro and T Wildish feature weighted treasure locations. So different locations have different levels of gear that we found in them. And Eblan Castle being a place you don't ever actually have to go. There's no bosses there. There's no key items there. There's just a bunch of treasures and trap chests. Ends up getting a pretty high weighting. So there can be a lot of good stuff here. The trap chests in particular can have some really nice stuff if you're lucky. So it could be that PlumeriaKnight did that treasury, wasn't happy with what he found, wasn't enough power, and so is willing to do a little more digging here for some good items.
Meanwhile, Possumorpheus hopping into the CPU fight here at the Magus Sisters spot, and we will see that going on with no back row glitch in the Red Moon flag set. The CPU main orb is a little more annoying to deal with, but jump on Kane does help quite a bit. Of course, CPU putting up the wall, protecting itself against magic attacks here.
Yeah, exactly. So definitely a little more annoying dealing with this, and something you're kind of considering through a lot of your seeds are, if I run into a CPU, do I have the tools to deal with it? And jump really does help, as you'll be able to still do full damage that way. Uh, when you have a spoon, though, which does a lot of damage, even having your damage cut nearly in half, you can still make quick work of this CPU, as we saw Eddie connect her full 1,000 points of damage here. And then 500, because hit accuracy ranges.
Absolutely. And meanwhile, we are seeing PlumeriaKnight work through this Mad Ogre chest here in Eblin Castle. Going to bring Edward back up, as he is the bulk of our attacking force here in terms of melee swings. Meanwhile, he's actually going to take a quick break. Oh, that's right. We do have those good axes for Kane. Mad Ogres, both giants and mages, if I recall correctly.
That is correct. They are actually, you might not think it, they are indeed a mage, so those mage killing gear, the Rune Axe, the Mute Knight, things like that, will go ahead and do all that extra damage to them. So even though Eddie has decided to hide, we still have sufficient damage to get through this fight quickly. And with Cecil there, I do believe rocking that crystal armor, and in the back row, able to take a ton of hits here for Kane to just let him just keep swinging.
You do love to see the back row Cecil cover strats coming through here as Kane chops through the competition, and we're going to pick up some trap chest loot here. This could be very exciting. Meanwhile, Possum is through CPU. And that's an Artemis bow for PlumeriaKnight. Put that together with the heroine robe and let Rosa shoot things. We'll see.
Actually, we were noting the back row glitch is not on, but if you put on a back row weapon, you can still be back rowed. So Cecil in the back row with an RD bow, you can keep him there in the back row for cover strats, but still let him do some damage. The Artemis bow is a good weapon, has reasonably high attacks stats, and provides strength and agility bonuses, so it can actually turn you still into a pretty good fighter.
Definitely an interesting option for PlumeriaKnight here as he takes on the Stale Man and Skull's chest. Tella gonna try to... Oh, Tella's gonna miss that stone cast, even from the center spot. There are no guarantees with spells like that.
Yeah, center slot does give an accuracy bonus, which is very helpful, but stone, unfortunately, just doesn't have the best accuracy. I believe its hit rate is only all of 30, so quite low there, even with that accuracy bonus, so you'll often see it whiff.
Here on the Tower of Zot, we see that Odin is going to be at the Dwarf Castle 2 spot, taking the place of Vanilla Golbez, and we're about to see what this piggy portends as we step through the door here. Looks like white ears, regular body, so we don't have a ton of information about what this boss is going to be.
So we'll just have to step on the spot and find that out. But yeah, you can get hints as to what boss is there through the pig sprite. But in this case, no real information provided. We do see on PlumeriaKnight, Stale Man's down, which is the scariest part of this fight, so we'll clean up another trap chest.
There is a great piggy meta chart floating around out there, thanks to Scala Kitty and Ribbon Quest, if I recall correctly, so thanks to those folks for making that. Meanwhile, Possumorpheus finds Pale Dim, singing the song of my people, which of course is... So, you know.
Yeah, every normal attack being countered that is slow, not terribly dangerous, but is, well, slow. So this fight can take a fair amount of time. Jump being a good strategy here, as that is physical damage that just happens to not be from the fight command, so won't trigger that slow counter attack.
PlumeriaKnight finding that third trapped chest here in Eblin, the 2 Black Cats and the Lamia with some dangerous counters here. The charms, the blasters, all of your favorite things to see when you don't quite finish off an enemy.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing. Don't finish them off. If you can set yourself up to one-shot these enemies, by far the least scary of the trap chests, but you need to have sufficient power to take them out in one go, or things can very quickly go bad.
Cecil putting on the samurai shield, looking to protect his comrades from some of these physical attacks, while Tella attempts to cast stone on the remaining members of the enemy party, which is all of them.
Again, nice fast way to get through. That stone does connect, which, hey, it does this time.
All right, well done. PlumeriaKnight is now through all 3 trapped chests here in Eblin Castle, getting all of the good loot, so we'll see what he does with that. This one's another rune axe, probably not what we were hoping to see here.
And chest number 2 had already arrows in it to go matching with that RD bow. So not the most powerful stuff, but also not a complete like miss either. There's some utility in the things we found here. The Artemis bow, as we noted, has very good stats itself. The RD arrows, very powerful arrows, with also the dragon killer property. And there's a handful of dragons that you'd like to be able to kill quickly, so they can be very useful actually.
I believe we also picked up a second crystal armor there, and of course the sequel to Crystal Armor 2 is Crystal Armor 2, The Search for More Money. You can always drop that off at your local shop and accrue some cash. And that may be what we see PlumeriaKnight do here as he checks the shops in Troya. More cursed rings, so many cursed rings.
This is the cursed ring seed. They are everywhere, which you really only need the one though, so we'll likely not be seeing any more picked up.
And Possum is through that second fight here at Zot. And we're going to see what key item we're going to pick up here, and it is the hook. We have underground access now.
Very nice. We actually can head to the underground for one, although as you do complete the Tower of Zot, you're sent immediately back to Baron, and there's a Baron in there, which contains 2 bosses and a key item check. So, well, we're here. Maybe we'll consider doing this right now.
How convenient, 2 boss checks right under our nose.
I do believe Possum threw the curse ring on his Cecil there, so Cecil is both doing a anchor and cover strategies for his team, so providing a lot of utility without actually being the damage dealer that he can be when he has a good item or a good weapon in hand.
Cap pointing out that the hook also unlocks the possibility of the rat tail turn in. Depending on what key item gating situation our runners find themselves in, we may or may not see that rat tail turned in today. Cecil making, or Possumorpheus making short work of some guards here as we move on to, ooh, is it leg? It's the full leg, not elements today.
No quarter leg. So again, one of those sprites that's shared here, and we just find out it's just Ruby, not the full elements fight, which is part of our boss hunt. PlumeriaKnight showing us with the no camping gear start that we have in this flag set means, hey, sometimes you need to actually stop at these inns that are scattered throughout the game. You don't see them in a lot of other flag sets, but this one, if you have not stumbled onto your camping gear and you need to get that heal, well, there's always an inn nearby to visit.
PlumeriaKnight just trying to log those hotel rewards points, try to get a free night stay sometime later in the tournament. Who knows if those will be redeemable by then. Some of these hotels might go out of business. We'll see. Possumorpheus picking up the Legend Sword here as a reward for these 2 bosses. 1 scoop of vanilla, followed by the Ruby fight here. And we'll take what we can get. We may see a Forge today.
Yep, very possible. This is the Supersmith, so you will not be getting that guaranteed excal, which is something you would like to see with your Paladin in the party. But instead, it'll be pulled from the Advanced Weapon Pool, which there's some really powerful stuff in there, but there's no guarantee you get an item that is actually usable by your party. So if you do find that Adamant Rock, you may choose to do it, depending on how late in the seed you are and the amount of power you have. You may just choose not to go ahead and commit that time.
And with no holy swords in Eblin, our runners may be tempted to take the gamble. Let's call it right now. What are we going to see down there?
You know,
that?
one of the harps for Eddie, since we already have the spoon for him.
I like that. I'm going to go with the traditional play of the Sunrise Boomerang and an Edgeless Seed. Meanwhile, Possumorpheus taking out the Bygan here in the Mist Cave. That is yet another objective boss. Possum moving up to 4 out of 7 bosses defeated before even heading underground here at 32 minutes. And we'll see. It looks like he's going to go ahead and pick up another one of those free boss spots, see what's here in the Waterfall Cave, while PlumeriaKnight contends with CPU.
Definitely, we're getting very close to, I think 5 out of 7 is kind of that really interesting spot where you've gotten very close to all the bosses you need, and for a lot of runners is kind of that turning point for the I can enter face check mode. But in order to enter face check mode, you need a sufficient amount of key items, usually the Darkness Crystal, in hand there to do that. So I think a big thing that will occur is, when do we get our hands on the Darkness Crystal and our 5th boss for, okay, when am I just going and face checking all of my bosses to just try to finish off my my boss hunt here?
If you have trouble remembering it, just think, when do I start face checking? It's a perfect 5 out of 7. And we see the tower key here for the rat tail from Possumorpheus as we just just step into the Adamant Cave here for a brief moment. Meanwhile, PlumeriaKnight is now through that CPU fight with ease.
I saw a 2,000 hit coming out there from Eddie, so doing a lot of damage. That might have been Berserk there, so PlumeriaKnight being able to just go ahead and confidently take that out before having to deal with low 199s.
And Possum is going to slightly reposition that hovercraft here for an optimal takeoff. And it looks like we're going to see him dive the hook route here while PlumeriaKnight finds out about Odin at Dwarf 2. And of course, our final boss in Zot here. Oh, and chat wondering what was that waterfall? That was Mylon and friends at the waterfall.
Yeah, a purple robe as opposed to the blue robe, which the blue robe indicates either the Water Hag or the Alt Gauntlet, which at this point we know blue robe means the Alt Gauntlet, as we've already seen the Water Hag.
Yeah, it was. We saw the Mylon and friends. PlumeriaKnight reset out of that quite early in the waterfall, and then I don't think Possum stayed long enough to figure out which Mylon it was. Didn't really matter.
We're not hunting either of them, so doesn't care too much who it is there.
Speculation about Antlion's location in the LST. Of course, Antlion often found vacationing on the moon, and here we see Kainatsu at Hook 2 spot here for Possum as we descend further down the hook route. Meanwhile, PlumeriaKnight taking out the Pale Dim and rearranging some of their items here during this this crumble.
Yeah, very, very nice use that time there. While the boss is crumbling, you're still kind of stuck in that fight, so why not use that time to go ahead and get the items you find useful to the top of the screen, maybe group the stuff you want to sell together down in some other quadrant there, so you can just quickly sell everything. Again, both these runners, very top tier, excellent runners, and you'll just see little strategies like this to make use of every second in the game they can to just make everything else they're doing just that much faster. That Kanizo, though, at the end of this hook route is kind of gross. Not usually the boss you want to see up there. It is a lot of HP for this part of the game, and the wave attack is linked to the HP totals, and so it can be very painful. You're looking at, if you don't do any damage to it and it just launches out that wave, a max of about 1200, 1250-ish points of damage.
With that 26k HP or so in mind for the Kenatsu, Possum taking a moment to fight some mad ogres, taking all of their moments away with an Hourglass 2, and just going to Zerk up Edward. We're probably going to see some life glitches here. Meanwhile, PlumeriaKnight popping into Baron Inn, seeing these vanilla guards, and soon to find that Rubicant, followed by the hook. Meanwhile, our restreamer is Scala Kitty, a wonderful restreamer refusing to share snacks, but still a fantastic restreamer. Don't forget to follow Scala Kitty. Don't forget to follow our tracker, Darth Plagal, rhymes with bagel, as well as our two fantastic runners, Possumorpheus and PlumeriaKnight, as well as my wonderful co-commentator, Klopfer. All great people, all great follows.
Yeah, and same to you. It's been a lot of fun doing commentary on this. And yeah, big thanks up to Darth Plagal doing extra tracking here on this set of racing sports.
Scala would share snacks if possible. I've heard it all before. Picking up that legend sword is PlumeriaKnight. Possumorpheus is through that trap chest with the Mad Ogres, heading on up to discover what the first hook boss will be.
I'm sure happy get that little bit of extra experience from the trap chest, as we do have a rude second boss there. One of the things, though, is we are given those Thor rages at the start, so if we do need to nerf the incoming waves, we do have the ability to do so.
It does not matter how big that lit spell is, it will always scare Kainatsu. If you hit it at the right time, it will even get rid of that wave. PlumeriaKnight going to find the Bygan here in the Mist Cave, while Possumorpheus gets ready for these hook fights.
Putting on the extremely powerful legend swords, okay, but likely wanting to keep Cecil there with a shield in his other hand, so not doing something like, say, the Rune Axe, which would not allow him to put on that shield. Keep high defensive levels, so he really is good at doing cover.
Legend sword, not even the holy sword we have at home. It's whatever's one tier below that. And we're about to discover a different purple robe. Looks like this is going to be Mylon Z, as some might call it. Little run buffer from Possum before we get started in this fight. Should not be too difficult. Setting up the cover, berserking up Edward, and just going to chop through with that spoon pretty quickly. Everyone's favorite tactical piece of silverware, going to make short work of Mylon Zed here. He will be the one falling flat into the deep ravine.
This party well set up for this fight. It does punch very hard for this part of the game, but having your Cecil covering your squishy bard up there in front does mean you'll be able to safely get through it, as we see Possum do.
And worst comes to worst, I believe we have 2 blink casters available if necessary, but Possum is very quickly through. PlumeriaKnight turning in that rat tail, receiving that tower key here from the Adamant Cave, and going to head down the hook route as well. Possum getting ready to challenge Kenan, so not even going to go save. No problems here. Not afraid.
Yeah, definitely feels confident going right into this fight. I think has a plan on how to handle this, and we'll go ahead and take it on. So we'll have to see if nerfs are coming out here. As noted, it is a lot of damage from that first wave, so it would be painful. Yeah, we see him sitting here on Kane. That's to go ahead and nerf that first one. So definitely a little bit of timing to figure out there, which Possum being an excellent runner, I'm sure he knows how to hit here.
I believe Possum also dropped that battle speed down to 3 beforehand. Ooh, and may have missed the nerf, combining the change in battle speed with that early use of the Thor Rage. But Tel's got a backup.
Back up. We're still fine.
I do always find myself with extra Thor rages at the end of these engagements, which means I should probably be putting in some backups as well. That's some good tech here that we're learning from the stream.
It is actually a really good idea. 10, you're right, is more than you need, and doing them too late does potentially allow Kanizo to have queued up the wave attack. So even though you lower the water, it's still going to launch. You're probably better off just throwing 2 and getting one of them in there early than risking having to eat that wave, especially the very first one, which could just entirely wipe your party. So yeah, use those Thor Rages. You have 10. Keep chucking.
Very nice of the turtle to not punch the bard. Well, I believe we have cover set up here on the bard, so our turtle is going to be punching our security guard paladin here quite a bit if they do try to hit Cecil. Tella, meanwhile, falls to the floor in what can only be described as a happy accident.
Tella almost certainly has put on that curse ring now and is taking over the anchoring position here. So him being down, you don't really mind. All you want him to do is stay slow, and so if he doesn't gain any experience, that's actually totally fine. Though again, with the curse ring, if you do happen to get levels on him, you're probably still not too worried. He just never gets that fast.
PlumeriaKnight going to pick up some time, skipping the chest opening grind here and heading straight for the bosses. Meanwhile, Possum continuing to chop down Keinatsu gets him into shell phase.
Yep, definitely generally feeling pretty safe once you see him enter the shell phase here. Far less HP, so even if a wave happens to come out, it won't be doing much. PlumeriaKnight almost certainly not feeling the need to do any more trap chests, as he has already taken on those in Evelyn Castle, which gave him both the experience and a handful of good items there. The Artie Bow and Artie Arrows being the main ones.
Both of our runners with a cursed Tella in that center slot. Just going to rely on that for our anchor, presumably for the rest of the seed here. And we see Keinatsu crumble as Possumorpheus, just like we saw PlumeriaKnight doing before, just goes ahead and rearranges that inventory. It's a great time to get it done.
Making use of all those seconds. So, and about just over 41 minutes here, getting close to 42 minutes here for a fall down into the underground. A lot of times you hear people talking about 40 minutes as being kind of your target to get underground. This is still definitely a very good time, though, here, as we did have to stop and do the entire Tower of Zot. So, as well as this isn't the most powerful team to start with. Unlike those Edge and Pooh starts, you need to do a little more ramp up here to get this team going. So, still very good time here from Possum to get underground here with all the things he's done.
Possum taking that extra couple of steps to the right there after the pitfall to peek the top of Tower of Babiel spot. We see a sparkle. So while we're not quite sure exactly what that is, we know it's not one of the bosses on our list.
Yeah. When those lunar bosses are part of your boss hunt, it can make it a lot harder to go ahead and scout them out. Unluckily for our runners here, not something they have to deal with. Now, knowing it's not one of our targets, though, we do have the tower key in hand, though, so are we interested in going into the tower?
One nice thing about doing the tower here is that with tower key in hand, you can get the Enterprise back and leave the Falcon behind, which avoids problematic parking issues later in the game.
You don't want to get those parking tickets. So yeah, if you can go ahead and get that swap done, hey, very useful. So Possum is going ahead and doing tower. Now, will it be the full tower, or he can very well just go ahead and check the super cannon room, which is important because that gets us an unknown boss checked, which again might be part of our boss hunt, and still provide us that item. Or does he go for the full tower clear? Darkness Crystal is still at large. We have not found it yet, so there very well could be a good incentive to want to find more key items. The unfortunate part of the way tower is set up is even though you do the super cannon room first, you don't see the key item from it until you leave the tower.
We're seeing King and Queen of Evelyn here in the Super Cannon room. Kind of a waste of a free boss, unfortunately, but it should be quick to chop through at least. And I'm sure Possum will set things up such that if top of tower is a bust, he can just reset out of it and save a little walking. Meanwhile, Kenatsu is getting worked on here by PlumeriaKnight. Edward may be down, but there's still some damage coming through.
Yep.
And a life potion on Edward. Yes, that's important.
Yep, pick him back up and get him swinging again. With him dealing down like that, he will go ahead and get covered by Cecil automatically.
And we see Possum very quickly through the Super Cannon room. Not a surprise. In addition to being a totally free boss, that spot has, just really no hit points, no stats to speak of. And so we're through that. As you mentioned, we will not see what key item we get from that until we are all the way down back at the bottom of the tower and we go through that little cutscene. But we do want to check the top of tower anyway, just to see if it is a key item we are in need of. Now we're going to set cover strats back up here, leave the battle speed at 3, just in case we get blarged.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, knowing that you have the Lunar Sparkle up there means the possibility of Wyvern and Wyvern Blargs are painful. The spot doesn't have particularly high magic, but Mega Nuke is a very strong spell and thus hurts.
Yeah, I don't think any of our party members would probably survive Mega Nuke here, even with this low magic power. PlumeriaKnight has Kenatsu in the shell. We should, and there's the crumble, right on schedule.
Well done by PlumeriaKnight. Both runners getting through a very rude boss for that hook route. It can be very challenging running into Kenaizo up there, and both our runners getting through. Very well done for them again. Excellent play from both of them. Very top tier runners.
Plague, a fairly tame boss to see here at the top of the tower, should be no issue. We're going to be berserking up our characters and potentially with the anchoring situation and some berserks, just avoiding the problem of the countdown altogether.
Yep, if you go ahead and have enough characters berserked, you can just clog up the queue and you don't have to worry about your count running out. Other options, if you don't have enough berserks, casters, or box ones in your hand, is to go ahead and have a character get knocked down, either start the battle with Teledown, or have a character knock down one of your other characters and throw a life pod at them. Plague doesn't like seeing people without counts on them, so he will immediately cast count again, resetting everyone's counter back up to 10.
Well, it looks like Possum is not employing the get knocked down, get up again, never keep me down strategy, and just going to attack and berserk his way through this plague. Meanwhile, PlumeriaKnight launching the Falcon here, we will see if we have any divergence or if we see a tower play from PlumeriaKnight as well. And PlumeriaKnight is going to head toward Dwarf Castle, it looks like.
Multiple nice things in the Dwarf Castle area. We see the entrance back here has the healing pot. Again, with no camping gear, you need to know where you can get those heals. So come by to this pot, as well as 2 bosses in here, although we already know one of them is not useful.
Ooh, Ninja Sword from top of tower. Not what Possum was looking for, but we are just going to walk that out here and head down and see what the key item from the Super Cannon ends up being. PlumeriaKnight taking a run into Dwarf Castle here. We may see some shopping, but first, we're going to find out who this first boss is when we see someone jump behind Giat, and it is D-Mist gating a key item here.
Again, D-Mist, interesting, gating its own key item. When you kill it, you can go ahead and visit Mist Village to pick up that key item. And then, of course, there's another key item if you finish the full Dwarf Castle here for finishing the 2 bosses at this location. So with 2 items here, even though these aren't your boss objectives, and without that Darkness Crystal in hand, Yeah, there's a lot of incentive to want to finish this, which is why we see PlumeriaKnight willing to go ahead and do this. If there was another boss here, very well we might have been seeing that reset, knowing it's not our boss objective, and maybe we go check some other locations, looking mostly that Darkness Crystal is the really big key item we want to find still.
We have no warp glitch in this flag set. Red Moon does not allow us to do any of the fun glitches, just life glitch, and that's it. No warp, no back row, none of that. No Sylph, even none of that stuff. Possumorpheus picking up the Darkness Crystal, I believe.
That is a big pickup again. That's one you really want to see. It opens up multiple boss locations for you, which in a boss hunt is extremely important, as well as we don't have the pass in hand, so it's an alternate way to get to Zemus himself. So big pickup there for Possum. And have to see how this will impact his routing. I was just kind of noting maybe resetting away from Dwarf Castle. As you know, the Odin is your second boss here, and you can peek the Demus. Might see this different play from Possum here. Or we still have some other key items, though, at large that are important ones that get us to more bosses. Baron Key, Twin Harp. How much does Possum value those at this point?
I believe the Baron starting boss was a Sparkle? Two seeds, my brain. It's Dark Elf. Thank you, Darth Plagueis, our wonderful tracker, reminding us what's actually going on in the seed.
Thank you. We would not be able to do anything, have any idea what's going on without our wonderful tracker. So big thanks.
We're always happy to provide that information to chat, especially when they're providing that information to ourselves as well. It is nice to know what's going on. PlumeriaKnight through that Odin fight with really no trouble at all. We're about to see what we have in store from Dwarf Castle in terms of a key item. We know it won't be the Darkness Crystal, but it might be something else helpful. And it is a Baron Key. Ooh, so that's 3 boss spots, one of which we know is not on the menu, but the other 2 might be.
As well as 2 more key items held behind it, the Baron Key itself, and then if you go ahead and take on that basement throne and are able to finish it, getting another key item check there. So yeah, you liking that Baron Key in hand, it's definitely one of the valuable key items still.
Of course, as far as gated bosses go, we still have the Twin Harp, the package gating access to bosses, as well as the Luca Key. So there's still some stuff we can't see, but we can see most of the bosses in this seed at this point.
Yep, which 3's enough to maybe be hiding enough of our bosses that we can't finish the game without finding some more key items, but the odds are getting that much lower that we do not already have access to all the bosses we need.
PlumeriaKnight picking up Sirens here in Tomra, selling some of this excess loot in order to acquire more. We're going to pick up 10 Sirens here. Should be plenty for PlumeriaKnight's grinds today. Meanwhile, Possum getting into that Odin fight. We'll see where PlumeriaKnight heads next. My guess is Tower with that key, but we might see a different play. Yes, looks like we're aiming for Tower here.
Yeah, access to 2 key item checks here, and PlumeriaKnight not having that Darkness Key in hand is valuing these key item checks, as well as, hey, you get a little more experience going through here. You have the Sirens you can maybe crack after. If you get sufficient levels before heading into the Fey March, maybe you can do the single stop there. You get your freebie key item, and you're powerful enough to take on, say, if one of your bosses happens to be hanging out at the King or Queen spot. Having that extra power means you might be able to take it on right then and there and get everything you need done in the Fey March in one stop.
I've certainly never had a problem with, fading a boss in the Fey March and having to come back to it later when it's been gating something important. That didn't happen to me a couple days ago at all. Certainly not. Meanwhile, PlumeriaKnight heading into the Super Cannon room. You're going to find that King and Queen of Evelyn. Possum going to find that Baron Key here coming out of the Luca room, or not the Dwarf Castle here. And PlumeriaKnight resets out of the tower.
Yeah, totally reasonable from PlumeriaKnight. I was kind of noting the 507 bosses, which is where you really get into that face check mode. 407 is kind of an aggressive point, but can still totally make sense why PlumeriaKnight is thinking this. We happen to know that's painful. The Super Cannon room is what's going to get you the darkness. PlumeriaKnight will likely be go ahead and checking the freebie here. It's a really fast check, something you're going to be doing anyway, to see if that's darkness. And when that we know doesn't lead to anything, may swing back to the tower, but that Baron Key is potentially another rabbit hole that might pull PlumeriaKnight away from where we know the Darkness Crystal is. So definitely a little risky.
the magma key. We can get underground now.
We
Isn't
have
that
underground
exciting?
access. At 52 minutes. Great to see.
And who knows, that Baron Key rabbit hole, if PlumeriaKnight does end up going that route and accidentally fading the darkness crystal here, of course, don't forget, we have this this view where we have a lot of extra information that the players don't. But if they do end up going the Baron Key route, who knows? They could find some required bosses. They could find the pass in this process. We could see an exciting come from behind here, and that is the gauntlet here at the Leviathan spot.
Again, we know that the next blue rope we see is indeed going to be our gauntlet, as we have already found with Waterhag. So PlumeriaKnight immediately keying in on that fact and wanting to take on this battle here. Everyone was knocked down to 1 HP from walking over all those damage tiles, and that can actually work to your advantage when you want to do Cecil cover strats, because anyone who is at 1 HP will be in that kneeling state, which means they get auto cover. So you only heal up your paladin, and now you're set to go ahead and start taking on this fight, with everyone being automatically covered at the start of all 5 of these battles. So very, very heads up play here from PlumeriaKnight. Also, again, showing good knowledge of knowing what this fight is at the alt gauntlet, and knowing that cover strats will be useful.
Cover strats are good here. Rosa self-zerking to take out those flying enemies is also great here with that bow. And the Conjurer is going to show us a friend here. Oh, and we're just going to reset out of the friend.
So the second fight is unfortunately a little more challenging with cover strats there. There is the opportunity to maybe get some heals in there, but unfortunately didn't work out there for PlumeriaKnight, so we're going to go ahead and take that reset before eating the Quake, which isn't the most powerful Quake, but it's still a Quake, which will hit everyone.
I've taken that Quake before, and as I recall, it does at least 1 damage, almost all of the time.
I've even seen it roll up to 2. Okay, it actually does a fair bit more than that, but there's one. Okay. Yeah, very, very nice here on the bottom side. Eddie, good for taking on DKC really fast. Dark Knight Cecil will attack, but hey, if you're in the hiding there, you're fine. You don't have to hit him any, and you just win the fight. So heads up play there from Possum, while not required in this seed, is still a key item check, and something he can get done fast enough that he chooses to do so.
Dark Knight Cecil was trying to give us an important lecture about morality. Edward just says, "I'm out," and leaves, and we are rewarded for our insolence with a healthy snack.
Yeah, no progression there, but hey, apples can be useful. Rosa, your white mage who you want to stay alive, doesn't have as much HP as your melee fighters. Maybe give to her. Eddie also doesn't get a ton of HP growth, and we don't want him getting knocked down. So Apple looking at least somewhat valuable in this seed anyway.
As a lifetime member of Team Apples for Rydia, I am always disappointed not to see her here to receive this HP granting gift. It's important to feed the kids a healthy diet so they grow up nice and healthy at Dwarf Castle. But since she's not in this seat, I suppose I can stand for these options that you're giving us. PlumeriaKnight going to reset out again. Just try to juggle the party comp a little bit. Might have to use some of these coffins that we've been holding on to. We'll see how PlumeriaKnight decides to negotiate this gauntlet here. But that Conjurer, as Chad is noting, is quite spooky.
It's definitely the harder fight than this first one we see, and is going to be proving a bit of a challenge. We do have some J items. I saw Possum there hovering over some hourglasses, which he may choose to break out in some of these harder fights. But is also currently set up for doing cover strats here, leaving all of his party members at low HP, except for Cecil, who will just take the hits for everyone. Except for Eddie, who will now be standing.
Looks like we'll be seeing...
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, looks like we'll be seeing these hooligans go down nice and fast once again for PlumeriaKnight. What were you about to say?
Just noting in chat there, a potential clapper grind. Maybe. So much like we saw with the Alert D Machine grind, you can go ahead and use bosses who just summon enemies over and over again to get experience. Probably not. We have Sirens in hand. Cracking some eggs is usually a bit faster. But who knows what these runners are thinking. Maybe we'll see this.
I think clap on is a little less likely than clap off here. Meanwhile, PlumeriaKnight finds their Marriott points not redeemable here in the Fame Arcs. This must be a blackout day, so he is going to pay the full 1,200 gold for that stay.
get everyone. Here's HP totals topped off, means we won't get the automatic cover, but we'll be in a much safer spot here for that second Conjurer fight, and so be able to get through that easier. Where we see Possum being able to go get through this fight a bit faster here, and safely through multiple Conjurers at this point. I think this is his third or fourth, so potentially last fight.
This is a pretty nasty gauntlet if you are at low health, not ready for those quakes, not ready for some of the things the Conjurers will summon here. But Possum is juggling things quite nicely and making it work. We're on to the clappers. Yes.
And Possum did check his inventory at the start of this, knowing he had some hourglasses in hand, and went ahead and saved that for this last fight, which 2 clappers are reasonably challenging, so being able to just lock them down and safely get through this last fight, which is when you really don't want to wipe on as you're looking at doing the entire gauntlet again. Good heads up play there by Possum.
And it's almost as if these clappers know that we have our tele anchor here, and they say, you don't mind if he just hangs out and looks at this cool floor pattern, do you?
Little nap time there. PlumeriaKnight making use of coffins here to get through. Very nice play there. Get through these Conjurer fights fast. If you coffin them immediately, don't have to deal with whatever they summon up if they're already knocked out. So good play there by PlumeriaKnight to make a quick work here of this fight.
PlumeriaKnight also doing a little run buffering into those coffins here, rather, which is also a heads-up play, just making sure that that's the first action going on. We don't want to see any of these friends. We're good with skipping them. Meanwhile, Possumorpheus is through the Fabul Gauntlet. That is 5 out of 7 objectives complete. Picks up the sad ruby, but that's probably okay. We were at, I think, 9 key items here.
Counting on stream, always dangerous. I see 9 as well. All right. So that is definitely interesting, which is you're in the underground, you have sirens. That's appealing to grind, but you're sitting at non-key items. That makes it not appealing to grind. So what does Possum choose to do here?
Possum heading for the yellow dragon egg peninsula here. Going to switch up the party order, try to get Edward to go first, increase the battle speed, and start popping sirens. Let's get some egg experience.
So definitely interesting getting a few levels. Will we see his entire grind right now, or just a handful of sirens to gain a little bit of experience and maybe finish off his grind later?
I think at a certain point here, you just want to take a couple of... wait, I saw 68k there. Am I missing something?
Oh.
Did I count that on stream? Oh no!
Potentially we missed an item at some point in time. But yeah, 68k is an indication of double experience. That's when you have double. So thank you, chat. Magma key was not marked. We did note we got underground access, which means we had the magma key. So you counted well. We just missed something on the tracker. 10 key items here for Possum. Okay, makes a lot of sense then here why he wanted to come over and crack these sirens. This is efficient. You are where you want to do your grind. You have your 10 key items to get double experience. Get all the levels you're going to need to finish the seed right here done, and you'll get through all the boss fights you have up ahead in front of you done that much faster.
Most definitely a solid call for Possum here. Meanwhile, PlumeriaKnight picking up the pass might actually be fulfilling the mini prophecy we made here. If PlumeriaKnight heads to Baron Castle and finds what he needs, we may see 2 divergent paths to the end of this seed here.
Yeah, very, very interesting there. They're still that way that even without that Darkness Crystal in hand, PlumeriaKnight very well could get access to Zeke first here through having that pass. So big pickup for sure. It'll be really interesting to see how that plays out. Possum did knock down D-Mist, so does have some incentive to go ahead and check that and get his pass as well. But again, maybe less incentive to head into Baron Castle because he has the Darkness Crystal in hand. And, well, there's more bosses on the moon than there are in Baron Castle.
It is not the most likely thing for everything we need to be in Baron Castle, especially since we do know that first boss is a Dark Elf, but this is a randomizer, and pretty much anything is possible here. And while PlumeriaKnight heads toward the Baron Castle checks, Possumorpheus is going to continue this grind, just continue using the spoon on eggs, which is, mildly poetic.
Yeah, it seems to track the weapon of choice there for taking on eggs. he did coffin the first few of them down, as he wasn't confident there that Eddie would do enough damage. But with the levels from the first few, Eddie now finally has high enough stats that he can hit hard enough with that spoon to one-shot these.
Yeah, noting that PlumeriaKnight has not done a grind yet, so that may be a little bit of a stumbling block in his way between him and the end of the seed, if he does indeed find what he needs here in Baron Castle. But we shall see what lurks behind the Dark Elf here. I recently learned that the Dark Dragon does not have the boss pit, so that's a fun fact for all of you.
Yeah, that's true. So there's a handful of spells you can go ahead that normally wouldn't hit bosses that are useful to throw against the Dark Dragon form there, the Dark Elf. Stop being very common. You can throw it weak. I do believe it still is immune to Fatal, so Coffin will not one-shot it.
That is true. Yeah, you can't coffin it, you can't fatal it, but weakening it is pretty sweet. No, we have not seen Wyvern yet, so that is a possibility. We are going to see Dark Imps here at the Baron Throne. Not on the list. Never on the list in Red Moon, I don't think.
Yep. So not one of our objectives here. But again, Baron still has the potential of having some value here, as there are some key items that gate bosses. So one, this could lead to say our maybe Twin Harp or the Package, which block bosses, Key being the last one, I think. As well as there's still the Basement Throne, one more boss check available here in Baron. So is Possum going to go ahead and follow PlumeriaKnight to Baron, or head off to the moon? Density is the answer there. Possum wants where there's more bosses, so let's go ahead and launch our big whale here and have access to both the giant and the moon, where there are multiple boss locations or boss checks we have not seen yet.
Awesome indeed. Going to go ahead and launch the big whale. Meanwhile, PlumeriaKnight about to find out the reason that Baron does not have single stream recycling. They just throw everything away in one dumpster in their basement. And now that they've been saved from the garbage compactor by a dwarf and a sylph, we're going to see what lurks in the Baron basement trash can.
Very important here, finding potential key item linked to a boss, or maybe something chaining. That pan could be important.
That is the pigtail, which is of course a voucher for some item. Traditionally a white shirt. You never know. I mean, it can't be an adamant armor. White shirt is of course the meme option. We'll see we probably won't see what's actually.
Why is it always a white shirt? Yeah, we're pretty deep into the seed, and we've already turned the rat tail, which does make it a bit of a trip to head over to turn that in. So likely we're not going to go ahead and see that turn in, as we have sufficient, I guess, gear already in our possession to make it through the seed. So not want to spend that time, especially again for two very top tier racers. They know every second matters.
PlumeriaKnight finding a sparkle here, not really what we're looking for, and that is Blarg. We're just going to leave that alone, I think.
Definitely don't want that. I like that from PlumeriaKnight, seeing a sparkle, knowing it's not one of the required bosses, but it is useful to know if Blarg is still in the pool or not. So going ahead and letting that fight load, see it is, and go, well, at least all future sparkles, I don't have to be worried about that.
PlumeriaKnight looks like we're going to do a little bit of a grind here. May also be getting ready to set up the Sheila 1 check as well. Just going to get those sirens ready. Meanwhile, Possumorpheus heading down into Cave Bahamut, looking for value.
All the bosses we have left, we can just go ahead and check the sprite here, as Golbez and Antlion are given away by their sprite. We can just tell by looking at them. And the nice thing is we've already found Ruby, which means that is a quarter leg.
Yep, we have elements here at the wow, what is the name of this boss? Bahamut location. Sometimes,
I think his name is Value, right? This is Cave Value, so it must be Value is the inhabitant of here.
That I believe that's correct. Yes, in the value spot. Sometimes when we do 45 minutes of one seed and then we get an hour into another seed, I start to lose that thing with the words and the brain and the stuff. So thank you for helping me out.
Wires getting crossed here and there, but definitely nice for Possum. I'm sure he's happy here to see another boss down, especially good to get it done here in Cave Value, which does mean he can continue to just base check all these other locations with only one boss left. The odds have gone up quite a lot of being able to find it here in the rest of the lunar subterranean.
Most definitely. I think this is an exciting find for Possum between the bosses on in the LST and, if necessary, the two bosses in the Giant. We should probably be able to find one of the things we need, and if we do have to take the Giant and then head back to the Blue Planet, well, Possum's got that pass. We see PlumeriaKnight taking the grind, while Possumorpheus is over halfway through elements here, just chopping away with that spoon all the way to the Valvalis portion of the event here. Pretty fast.
PlumeriaKnight very well set up for this grind fight. As noted, those Artemis arrows doing extra damage against dragons, so Rosa being able to just one-shot all of them. Tella there stealing the first turn, which likely means a 0 agility, although a few more levels on that should push him back up to 1 agility. The curse ring minus 15, if you have exactly 15, you get pushed down to 0, which I'm not sure exactly what that does with the agility system other than messes everything up. And so they'll see to steal turns like that.
Likewise, all I know is it breaks it, and don't like that. Possum is through elements up to 6 out of 7. He is just going to exit out of cave value here. No need for a further grind. We have done everything we need to on that front. And PlumeriaKnight continuing the grind as Possum heads over to the LST. Oh, actually, we're going to do a quick check of the shop here. We are going to see just a little more shopping before we head down there.
Is it Bacchus wines that maybe are still at large? Because that could definitely be useful to have those in hand. And Bacchus wines are for sale here, so yeah, almost certainly what Possum's looking for. Being able to have the party just be able to berserk themselves as opposed to having to depend on Tella or Rosa doing it for them is very useful and very quick to get through these much harder boss fights we have ahead of us.
Most definitely a great pickup for Possum as PlumeriaKnight says hello to a sleeping young and heads out, setting up that Sheila 1 check for later. However, I don't know how useful the key items behind Sheila are going to be, because we know, and unfortunately PlumeriaKnight does not know, where that darkness crystal is. Meanwhile, Possumorpheus fixing up his party composition for this trip down into the LST before heading down past this empty character point. No piggies here. Sorry, everybody.
So I definitely want to say very strong play here by PlumeriaKnight. Once you've chosen to fade a location, you've kind of have made that gamble, and continuing to fade it is almost always going to be your strongest play. So PlumeriaKnight seeing still doesn't have the Darkness Crystal in hand, and there are other options available for checking key items. So having done Baron first, and now going ahead and checking up on Sheila 1 makes a lot of sense. We just happen to know not going to pay out here, although there still is a possibility with that Twin Heart. That is a boss check, as we noted before, and provides a key item, which if that changes into Package or Luca, which also has one of our required bosses, still does mean there's a path here for PlumeriaKnight actually being significantly ahead of the Possum, if that is the case.
Ooh, the Possum does find Volpez. Wow, that is a great find for Possum here. Although I do want to acknowledge just how right you are about what you mentioned. When you fade, you do want to commit to that fade. Just like you said, you got to play to win. And when you are fading something, you have to keep. You really want to keep fading it. And just say, well, if that's the play I made, I don't want to go back on it. I'm going to lose a bunch of time going back on it. That's just not how we want to do things. Gotta place our bets and then hope they pan out. Unfortunately for PlumeriaKnight and fortunately for Possum, we do see this Golbez here in the LST at, I believe, the Mura spot. And Edward is going to say, I'm just going to let you deal with Shadow here for a minute.
So unfortunately, that does remove the ability for PlumeriaKnight to find 2 bosses in these alternate locations. I was just saying, as we only had 2 unknown bosses left, and Possum here finding Golbez does mean you have to come to the moon, which means you do need that Darkness Crystal, which came from the Super Cannon room, which PlumeriaKnight unfortunately did reset out of after seeing it wasn't one of the required bosses.
Sometimes you have to make an aggressive call in these seeds, and that was an aggressive face check, and you know, it's hard to say what's right or what's wrong when you have all the information, but I have a lot of respect for that play for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Very much right at that kind of cusp too of the decision of, can I go into full face check mode or not? And like 5 is where a lot of runners get pushed to that. 4, you can definitely do it, and it is that aggressive play, and what PlumeriaKnight chose to do makes a lot of sense too, given the information they had, which is there was a lot of key item checks they had still available to them, so a lot of places that they could find the Darkness Crystal and be getting new boss information. So I actually really like the play, just happened to not work out this time.
One thing PlumeriaKnight is going to give us here is some harp music. There are a bunch of harp tracks here in the free enterprise randomizer that approximate in to various degrees, often better than the original, in my opinion. Many songs from video games you may or may not recognize. So we'll see what we get here. Meanwhile, Possumorpheus picking up that 7th boss and the crystal here. Yeah, it was definitely a math-focused play for sure. PlumeriaKnight just putting Rosa on the ground here to skip a lot of this cutscene, and we're about to get some music from DJ Spoony B.
All right, great tune there from ActRaiser, as Chad has pointed out. Thank you, Chad, as always, for helping us out there. But also from Chad, I'm seeing some important Z flags. What are those about? We're getting here quickly.
Well, of course, we can't randomize the location of Zeromus. Zeromus is too big and too powerful, so instead we give him a fun costume. There are about 670 million, or maybe 670 costumes for Zeromus in the randomizer, and we will see which form he takes when the crystal is used, revealing Zeromus's, quote, true colors. So, of course, we ask the question, I believe in this tournament, we've been asking, in the name of the Red Moon, who will we punish this afternoon?
Love it. Very well done. Very fast there for the condensed timeline there and getting into our Z. But yeah, throwing out that crystal, we revealed the true form. A huge pool of amazing sprites. And yeah, a lot of fun questions there, as well as we asked about hats and butts and other things. So let's see what we have for us today. Well, PlumeriaKnight just getting that power shirt up if you put that.
Fortunately, not quite. We were looking for PlumeriaKnight to go ahead and see if the play is to check what was behind Blarg here in the barren basement. Meanwhile, Possumorpheus revealing the true nature of Zeromus to us. And it is...
I think that's Breath of Fire. Chat again, well, I'm sure help us out here.
I usually have a... When I play through Breath of Fire on my stream, I have a Breath of Fire expert who helps me out.
After years.
Ah, okay. After years.
Thank you, Scala. Again, amazing work on all these sprites, though. So we do see a crystal here being used again, which is a strategy for going ahead and getting a nerf done onto the Big Bang that comes out here. The first one, just go ahead and get any spell that will trigger a counter nerf or counter nuke here, and the first Big Bang that will come out will do far less damage, which is really important when you have a Spoonword Eddie here doing a big chunk of your damage. You need to keep him healthy.
Yes, Edward, definitely not going to have a good time trying to survive an unnerfed Big Bang. Speaking of high power attacks, PlumeriaKnight is through that Blarg, having gotten a heads up wall up onto Rosa there, will unfortunately just be rewarded with that glass helm and is going to reset out. I think at this point, PlumeriaKnight probably has the information we have, which is that Fading Tower was unfortunately not the play. We are going to see a Big Bang nerfed coming out here for Possumorpheus, and Spoonword is just going to continue to chop away with reckless abandon from the front row, along with Kane with what I believe is a Dragoon Spear?
I believe so. But definitely getting good damage out here between those two characters. Spoonword, while kind of fragile there with only 1000 HP, definitely not able to do full strength Big Bangs. is dishing out 3k a hit while he's berserked up here, so able to do a ton of damage. Up to 5k apparently.
Yep, a nice 7k in that cycle here. Cecil hanging out in the back row, doing his job, handing out items, and just being a generally helpful person when he can't swing a holy sword.
Yep, and if you don't find a holy sword, you know what? A spoon will do, as Possum has shown us here, with Eddie just doing a ton of damage all seed long. So definitely getting that early spoon and knowing where your bard was has proved to work well for both of our runners.
We see a shake here. I think that may have been a refill shake based on... Oh no, there's the virus coming out to nerf the Big Bang.
Yeah, the amount of damage he's doing, he might have skipped right into phase 2, and so that was the shake for phase 2 Big Bang.
And the counter nuke going on Cecil is just about the best spot you can hope for that.
Perfect. Lots of HP, he's able to handle that, no problem. I do believe Possum had thrown up a wall onto Eddie earlier, just in case that counter nuke targeted him. Some board AI at work going for the important target would have kept him safe.
Definitely a solid play. Just when you feel like you're prepared for the fight, you have to ask yourself questions like, okay, I know all the ways I win this fight, but how do I lose? And Possum correctly identifying one of the ways that he loses time, at least, is by having that counter nuke hit Edward. A good defensive play here.
And looks like that, in fact, was just a fake shake, and so now we are truly into phase 2, and thus need to nerf again. But again, Possum in good shape to go ahead and do that. Just throws out another virus here. And this one hitting Tella. Tella's done his work. He's gotten the nerfs in, so he can go ahead and take a nap.
Tella absolutely has done a great job. Meanwhile, PlumeriaKnight working on Plague here, zerking people up, just taking some swings and bonking some things, and Plague is going to go down right here. Meanwhile, Possum doing a great job of nerfing that Big Bang. We see just a few hundred damage dropping onto Edward here. Edward solidly alive with a little over 400 hit points here. Should be able to get him back up to full with a Cure 3 if necessary.
Yeah,
And that's exactly what's going to happen.
Wall up, so he goes ahead and doesn't get the Cure 4. But yeah, we shouldn't have to see any more full strength Big Bangs, not with the damage numbers, or any more Big Bangs with the damage numbers we have here. We should hopefully just get into the medial phase pretty soon. Unfortunately, the black hole does connect, so we'll have to recirc up our fighters.
Looks like Possum may have even been prepared for that. I saw him queuing up a spell with that Rosa. My eyes were not quite quick enough to see what it was, but it was indeed Berserk. We anticipated that black hole and reacted accordingly, putting that Berserk back up on Edward. Nice play. And Meteor coming out, we are in phase 4, almost done. 12k hit points or fewer remaining on this Zeromus. Wow.
Yep, into rocks, yeah, definitely. I think we said multiple. Spoonward hits really hard. Fragile, but hits really hard, and we're seeing that this fight. And there we go, that's a shake. GG here to Possum.
Well done, Possum, getting through, winning this race with a time of 1 hour, 20 minutes, and 32 seconds. Very well done to Possum. And PlumeriaKnight just threw that super cannon room here.
And we'll get that information. Although I think I did just hear a ding, which means we should be joined by Possum.
Well,
Possum.
that is me.
Hey, great. Good
Jeez.
to have you here.
Thank you.
Well,
Sorry, huge thank yous first and foremost to Plumeria for allowing a reroll on this. My power decided it was going to go off about 35 to 40 minutes into the first seed, and Plumeria was gracious enough to go with a reroll. So thank you again to Plumeria, wonderful human being.
Definitely a very cool thing for Plumeria to do here, and I'm glad you were able to get your power back and get back up and running as quickly as you did. GG's, congratulations on your victory here. How did you feel about this second seed?
There was a lot less power initially. I was kind of wondering, like, am I going to have to roll with an Ogreax Sid and like a Runax Kane or vice versa? What am I going to do? What is my plan long term? Is it going to involve a D machine for Yang and someone? Like, what am I going to do was my thought. And then the spoon showed up and the answer was there. So that was the big thing. Like the first few minutes, of course, being very nervy about the whole power situation. It being over 110 degrees here in Las Vegas today, the grid is under a lot of stress, and it just decided it wasn't going to work. So I was a little on edge, like, please don't go out again. I really don't want to deal with this. But, you know, we found our power in this seed by way of Edward, which was nice.
Yeah, Spoon, we're doing a lot of work for you, and you did a very good job of protecting him throughout the seed. I was very impressed with that. I know it can be hard to handle Edward in the Red Moon flag set without the back row glitch available. Klopfer, did you have any sweet questions for Possum here?
Yeah, I was definitely interested in kind of what were your routing decisions, mostly like the overworld seemed kind of linear on how you had to go through to your checks, get you that hook. But when you did get to the underground, you had 4 out of your 7 bosses done at that point. Kind of what was going through your mind on where you went to check and like how close were you thinking you were to finding all 7 of your bosses?
Pretty much it was like Darkness and Barren probably represents go mode. It's just a matter of where did the numbers lie at that point. So those were kind of the 2 items I was hunting. Darkness showed up fairly early. Barren took a little bit, but I also wanted to find 10 key items. This team, while it has some decent punch and some decent stats, it doesn't really get there without some levels. So there was always the thought, if I really want 10 key items with this team, almost as much as you'd want it with a mage team. And so that influenced the routing quite a bit, where it was like, go do all the things that have all the key items. So hit tower, hit dwarf, hit Fey March, and full cleared the Fey March. And just kind of go from there, and ended up at the 10 key items. At that point, it was, do I go Baron? Do I go Moon? The Baron initial boss, from what I remember, was Dark Elf. So that tells me there's only 2 unknowns in Baron versus 8 unknowns between the Moon and the Giant. Statistically speaking, you're going to see just under 2 bosses between the Moon and Giant. So to me, it seemed like, well, let's go play with those 2. Demist having the pass was nice because it alleviated the concern of, if it's Baron, I can come back, do Baron, and then go to Z through the Troya pass door. So it kind of lined up really nicely routing-wise, which was a pleasant surprise in the end. Also, the bosses being top 2 spots was beautiful.
Definitely worked out very quickly at that part. Did the pass, in fact, actually change your mind? Were you thinking of routing in that Baron, or still leaning towards the Moon there, and seeing the pass is what sent you that way? Or
so once I picked up the pass, I went and launched the big whale and took a little time to do the math and really think about, like, what is my best option here? If I fade Baron and it has exactly 2 bosses, it feels awful and I lose if Plumeria does it. If it only has 1 boss in one of those 2 spots, the throne or the basement, if I've done well enough to that point, maybe I can pick 2 off the Moon and still get there. So the calculus was just basically, the Moon has to be the optimal play in this situation. And that's what I went with, and it worked out.
great, makes a lot of sense. Great insight there, as well as a hidden hint there for runners who are listening there, which is, hey, that lunar whale launch takes a long time. Use that chance to think when you need to decide what you're going to do. So if you're not too sure, hey, you have a good opportunity there. So excellent on that front. The only last thing I kind of want to ask was, on your grind there, was there any specific targets you were trying to hit, like HP levels on certain characters or damage coming out from Eddie? Anything you were looking for to hit before you backed out?
White on Rosa, just in case it was Golbez I ran into, that would give me an extra source of big damage against Golbez. It also gives you a nice comfy, like 2200 HP on her and a lot of HP on everyone else. But that was kind of the plan, was if I get to White on Rosa, and let's say Eddie goes down, or whoever goes down, Rosa can be my backup, and she can push a ton of damage with White. So that was kind of the thought process there. I knew the Z fight was not going to be super quick, even with a spoon word, but it was good enough. And good enough is all we need.
Excellent. And we are definitely knowing good tech there in that Z fight to get through that quickly. On your own end, any other thoughts on Seed? Anything we didn't touch on that you want to talk about?
I'm glad that the turtle was where it was. I assume both Plumeria and I got to put on a decent show of how to handle the turtle. I I would hope so anyway. It's always a fun fight to do Kainatsu at the Ruby spot, so that was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well done. Everyone else was saying, oh, how gross this is. That's going to just be a big roadblock. But you're right, both of you being extremely talented runners, put on an excellent show of how to deal with that boss at such a rude location without any problems. So thanks for showing everyone that.
Yeah, my pleasure. And again, thank you to y'all for what I assume are going to be wonderful comms on the watchback. Both Klopfer and Raging Levine. Scala, of course, thank you for adminning and adminning extra for this because of the power. And Darth Plagal, thank you for tracking. And of course, one more huge thank you and GG's to Plumeria on a wonderful show of humanity and kindness in giving a reroll. So thank you once more again. Huge GG's to Plumeria, and we'll see y'all in the round of 8, I guess.
Absolutely. Best of luck as you head on into what I believe is the best of 3 rounds of the tournament.
That is correct. Looking forward to it.
Well, big thanks to Possum there for putting on an excellent race for us today. And again, all the insight he shared here in the post-interview, definitely do give him a follow. He streams a lot of this, and as noted here, very knowledgeable and able to provide a lot of insight into the game as he's running. So do give him a follow, please.
Meanwhile, as PlumeriaKnight continues to progress to the seed, he has found that Golbez at the Mura spot, which means he is very close to completing the seed here. We're just going to see Shadow knock down a few party members. Unfortunately, the currently casting Rosa is one of the folks that falls down, but I don't think this is going to be too bad for PlumeriaKnight. Should be through this fairly quickly.
Yep, should be able to get through this Golbez location. Is able to do a fair amount of damage, but if you get that Star Veil up, you are totally safe. It does look like we did, I think maybe not go into this, but the Pinktail PlumeriaKnight did go ahead and pick up and got probably actually one of the better turn-ins for that Pinktail, which is the Avenger, which Kane is currently wielding. So he immediately has just gone into swinging mode here and is doing good damage here to our Golbez, who luckily did target Kane, who has a much healthier HP pool, who was able to take that virus, which meant Eddie safely gets up that Star Veil and will now be able to close out this fight here, being totally safe from Golbez. Wow, Golbez does not like Kane.
Well, Kane did his job. He got a few swings in, he jammed the Q, made sure Edward could get that Star Veil up in time. The magic at this spot, not too bad. Edward should be able to chop through before anything terrible happens to him, reflecting this lit 3 back here at Golbez.
Not the highest magic power, enough to have definitely been able to high roll out Eddie if he got targeted, so definitely was convenient there that Kane took those hits. And PlumeriaKnight cleaning this up.
Golbez leaving the comedy club as PlumeriaKnight picks up that 7th objective boss. The Antlion hiding somewhere, perhaps on the giant, perhaps behind the package. Who can say? But what's
only
important
hope on the moon, his home location.
Could very well be just enjoying that 2-week timeshare up here in the LST. But for now, PlumeriaKnight's not going to worry too much about Antlion's vacation schedule. Just going to go ahead and exit out, head on back down to the Blue Planet, turn in the pass, and receive 1 free ticket to the After Years version of Zeromus here.
Yeah, making good use of that pass there. When you're in the lower end of the lunar subterranean, you can definitely just go ahead and finish your walk down to Zeromus. Way up here at the top, that's a far walk. Luckily, we have the pass in hand. We just exit it on out and use that to get to Zeromus quite quickly.
And we're going to see PlumeriaKnight land this very large airship in a very small spot. Always one of my favorite things to see in a seed is just this itty-bitty parking space for this big ship.
It fits. And as you noted earlier, thank goodness there was not a Falcon in our way. No parking shenanigans going on here. Able to just easily park the big whale here and get ready for Zeromus fight, which includes getting the Avenger taken off to start with.
I started playing Free Enterprise shortly after that little bridge down there was added, so I haven't had to deal with the serious levels of parking pain, but I've heard it's bad.
Yeah, I think it could get a little painful here. Wow, really having good gear here to put onto that Paladin Cecil here. An Avenger, a Power Shirt, Zeus Gauntlets, a Ninja Hat. that's a lot of, I can't do the math, but that's a lot of extra strength here. He's going to be swinging pretty hard with that gear setup.
Most definitely. We know the dangers of doing math on stream, and we're not even going to try. We leave that to these runners. They show us the outcome of that math with their solid plays here. And PlumeriaKnight is going to take that very powerful Cecil down to this Zemus fight here, offering up a Siren. Not quite what we're looking for. Here's the pass.
Yeah, not too interested in that, but the pass will work. But yeah, definitely, I think the outcome of all that math, well, we can't get the numbers, should be even without that Holy Sword in hand, Cecil will still go per.
Not only does Avenger have some pretty decent attack power, it does have some stats that you get to take advantage of when you do equip it before battle starts without using the Avenger glitch. So Cecil will be the beneficiary of some extra multipliers there, I believe.
Yep, some good actual physical stats in there. Strength and Agility, I think, both up by 10. It will take down your magic casting stats, but you have an Avenger on, so you probably don't mind too much.
Probably not going to come up, yeah. The other advantage of the Avenger in the Zemus fight is that it is a source of Berserk that does not get cleaned up by Black Hole, which is some nice action economy as well.
Yep, definitely. There are also abilities to use the Avenger glitch to equip it mid-battle to keep the stats of your old weapon while still putting on the Avenger for that alt Berserk. So if you do have that Holy Sword and want the infinite Berserk of Avenger, you can have both by just coming into the battle with that Holy Sword and swapping on over to the Avenger inside.
Zemus's true colors are once again revealed, and PlumeriaKnight is starting the Zemus fight in earnest here. One of the other nice things about the Zerked up Cecil here is that Cecil hitting or missing will tell us when it is safe to nerf without just whiffing an action completely.
Yep, definitely. Zerked characters are very convenient for keeping track of where you are in that battle, so knowing after you see the shake when to throw your item there to guarantee that nerf.
And Edward going to throw out a Thor Rage just to nerf this first Big Bang. Of course, I think as we mentioned earlier, the timing on this first Big Bang nerf, very forgiving. You do not have to wait for the shake before you nerf it, but for the subsequent ones you do. And that counter nuke is just going to take out Tella right off the bat.
Yep. And basically any spell there, so you can throw out the crystal, which does happen to trigger it, but also feel free to use a lot of your other J items. Silk Webs work, Thor Rages work. So if you have some with a shorter cast time there, go ahead and use that. Just get that nerf in, and yeah, they're very forgiving time on that first one.
And we're seeing quite a bit of damage coming out here. I think we've even zerked up the Rosa. Big Bang going to come through here. It is nerfed, though. PlumeriaKnight queuing up that life potion, maybe just in case Edward does fall, even to the nerfed Big Bang, but he will stay alive, and a Cure 3 should be sufficient.
Yep. Very nice there by PlumeriaKnight, sitting in the item menu, just waiting to see, is this enough to knock down Eddie, or just do a bunch of damage to him?
We had a little hiccup there, but everything seems to be good again. The fight is continuing, and we do see the fight continuing to roll for PlumeriaKnight. Bacchus going down on the Edward. We are going to see some more attacks here. Just a lot of auto attacking, and Kane just handing out some curatives to the party.
Yeah. So Kane taking here both the role of being our safety here. He has a good amount of HP, so he can take some damage, throw out those Cure Pots, as well as we might see him go ahead and nerf any subsequent Big Bangs come out. But if our damage numbers are high enough, we might actually be able to just go ahead and skip by the first one, going straight into phase 2, so after this first shake, and maybe even the second Big Bang too. But that does take a lot of damage to be able to do that.
Yeah, even with Spoonward, I have trouble imagining that we're going to have quite enough damage for that. Not seeing 5,000 and 6,000 damage numbers coming out from a Holy Sorted Cecil, but still getting about 8,000-9,000 damage per cycle through the party here with the 3 Zerkers going out. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, much more common, you're right, to see with a Holy Sword Paladin swinging there for 5 or 6k, but these are 3 powerful Zerkers, so unfortunately we do have a lot of, as you can kind of see, damage ranges from these characters. They're hitting quite variable damage. Bows are quite susceptible to this, as their accuracy is not as good as a lot of other weapons.
And going to try to jump over this Big Bang, it looks like, while our other Zerkers jam the queue for a minute. We'll see what happens first. a Big Bang or Kane coming down from the heavens. It is Kane, going to drop 3,000 damage on our boss here, but we'll see if we can push through the phase. Yeah, this one is not nerfed, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, there was no nerf there, as everyone was busy swinging their weapons or jumping into the air. So we do have to keep that. Although we are getting slightly pretty. Oh, nice.
Oh, there we go. Fantastic. That is a very fortunate end for the fight there. Well done, PlumeriaKnight. Certainly did the math before executing that strategy, and PlumeriaKnight is through. Zemus here at 137.28. Well done.
Yes, nicely played there by PlumeriaKnight to get through that fight. And with that ding, I do believe we are joined by PlumeriaKnight. GG's, well done.
Hello.
Hello there. Hi, PlumeriaKnight. GG's on finishing up the seed here, and thanks for being so amenable to the handling of the power outage on Possum's end. I know everybody appreciates that.
Yep.
There. What did you say?
I just wanted to say thanks for agreeing to the reset there. I know everybody appreciated that.
Oh yeah. My policy is whatever people decide. Sometimes you just can't reschedule. But for me personally, I don't want to win that way. So doing a different seed works well for me.
Plumeria, you are breaking up a whole bunch. Can you leave and rejoin the call?
A little bit of technical difficulty. It looks like on PlumeriaKnight. We're going to have him rejoin and see if that makes the connection a little more solid. PlumeriaKnight, welcome back.
Welcome. Is this any better?
Much better.
Yes.
Now, let's do this. So, yeah, again, definitely.
All right. Yeah.
Such a good sport there.
Go ahead.
Definitely. I was just, again,
Yeah.
sport, very, very considerate of you, and getting us a full seat there was definitely very entertaining to watch. Definitely
Excellent.
Yep. Definitely interested in kind of your thoughts on those seeds, kind of starting there at the beginning. What are your thoughts, first of all, I guess, on seeing that Cecil start, and then kind of as you collected for early party members, what were you thinking?
Well, so Cecil's always kind of the loot guy, more than I think Fu or Edge, and you always want to have those trap chests in the back of your mind, or the treasury, as the case may be. And finding Rosa was great, and then I always appreciate Kane on these flag sets. He's really useful. Really, he has a lot of utility. And an early Sid and Tella is great as well. So it was a pretty good party to start out with. Just not a ton of weapons to work with, but I guess we made it work.
With that early Tella, how did you feel about the potential of coming out of a D-Machine grind in the first seed and potentially going into a second D-Machine grind there if the Darkness Crystal did pop up?
With Zerkers, I generally don't D-Machine. Again, it's all dependent on the loot, and maybe if sirens don't show up, then we go to the D-Machine. But otherwise, it's just a question of how far do we take the sirens, depending on how much loot I get.
Definitely. I guess kind of on that loot front, we did see you go ahead and rate a treasury. What were your thoughts on seeing what you got out of that?
Yeah. Well, it was great stuff for Rosa, and that was about it.
Yeah, fair enough. Which then immediately, is that what drove you then to that Evelyn Castle dive? Or was that always, I guess, kind of...
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It wasn't good enough for me, and we got more Rosa stuff, so that at least made it workable. And, I was hoping for maybe we'd transition to Cecil being the arty user for Z, but then we ended up getting the Avenger Dragoon Spear, so everybody was set. I wanted to quint the team there, but I kind of messed up the nerf and then messed up Eddie's Bacchus, and so I had to play it a little safer.
For sure. Still was very nicely handled in that C fight with what you did have going there. and being able to get through there into that full strength Big Bang right into still getting the kill before having to deal with those meteors was well done. The other,
Thanks.
I suppose, big question there was as you hit the underground there with 4 out of 7 bosses done, what was kind of your routing decisions? And what were you looking for, and kind of anything you saw changed your decision?
Yeah, I was looking for darkness basically, so I wanted to do as many, Fey March and Dwarf are just kind of standard because you get the bosses as well. And then I just wanted the darkness crystal, so that's why I kind of prioritized the freebies. And boy, I did Tower just as a boss check, and I was thinking, darkness is still out there. Do you do the half tower? Do you spend the time here? And I just thought, we still have a couple of freebies to check, so let's just reset out of this. And I think that and the gauntlet kind of cost me the race.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. We were talking about that on stream, made a lot of sense. You had a lot of checks still available to you, which included getting to see new bosses you hadn't yet. So kind of all the numbers there really seemed like it could make that fade work out. And we just happened to know, it was important to do that, and you skipped it. So definitely that makes a lot of sense what you were thinking there and how you read it through that. And unfortunately just didn't work out this time around.
Yeah, another day, maybe there's 2 bosses on that route and I get lucky, but not today.
Definitely, it was a math play. It was an odds play, and something that just you have to make your play based on percentages sometimes, and sometimes those percentages don't come out on your favor. But regardless, I thought it was a very well played seed. I was especially impressed by the show you put on with Kenatsu at Hook 2. Definitely a fight that I am a little scared of, and you put on a good clinic there. So well done there.
Thank you.
And just anything else on that seed that you wanted to touch on that we might not have been asking you about here?
Just GG to Possum. He's a great player. Trying to get as good as he is, but looks like I've got some work to do. So next tournament, maybe I'll get a second chance.
You do say that, but I want to say definitely GG's to you. It was very well played. I think as you kind of noted that the routing just didn't work out in your favor. There was definitely really excellent play from you, and it was a joy to watch. So thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, and thanks for the restream, everyone.
Alrighty, so that is it for this particular race. After this one, we are going to be doing a quick raid. We are going to head over to Free Enterprise 2, where there is a Blue Moon race going on between Rowdy Roddy Sniper and Zeke. But before we go, I do want to once again thank our runners, Possumorpheus and PlumeriaKnight, for the hard work they did playing a seed and a half for us today, giving us a lot of entertainment, as well as our restreamer, Scala Kitty, our tracker, Darth Plagle, and of course my co-commentator, Klopfer here. Everybody did a fantastic job, and thank you so much for that.
As well as a big thanks to you. It was a joy doing this commentary with you. And do please follow everyone involved with this, especially our runners, putting on a great race for us and just being 2 excellent runners, really showing us how to get through these somewhat difficult seeds. And as we send you on over to Free Enterprise 2, just a reminder as always, no spoilers for this race. Anyone in that room may want to go back and watch this, so please, no comments on this one. With that, thanks everyone for joining us, and let's raid you on over to Free Enterprise 2.